The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242
or visit tomsbeets.com.
How would you like to know that when you call Free Speech TV and make a $10 gift, that Free Speech TV gets 20? That when you call and make a $100 gift, they get 200? That when you call and make a $480 gift, they get $960? That when you call and make a $1,000 gift, they get $2,000? How'd you like to know that? Well, that's the case today and tomorrow, because Mike in San Francisco has made a matching gift challenge up to $20,000 for the next 2 days. This is, thank you, Mike. So any gift, you want to make a $10,000 gift, it becomes $20,000. Whatever you give today and tomorrow will be doubled. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and make a contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. We were about $1,000 short of our goal yesterday, which is, not bad given that we've had some days where we were $4,000 and $5,000 short. But let's try to hit that goal today. Let's try to make today a $10,000 day, for this program and really make it work. For our part of the fundraising for Free Speech TV. Because every program is also doing fundraising and has their own goals, and this is ours. And we need to hit this. I mean, we've got to keep the electrons flowing. We've got to keep the lights on. There are expenses running a television network, even a little engine that could television network like this, which is filled with extraordinary people and some great talent, and is supported by you. It's not here because some billionaire moved here from Australia and decided that he was going to change the politics of America. Free Speech TV is not here because, so a bunch of fat cats in New York got together and said, hey, let's make some money in the media. No, it's here because, well, back in the day, John Schwartz and some friends of his got together and said, let's do some educational nonprofit television programming. And it has evolved over I think it's 17 years now. It has evolved to be what it is now, which is extraordinary how far this network has come. And we're now on Dish, we're now on Direct, we're on Roku, we're picking up Apple TV. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming down the road, that's in process right now that we funded with previous fundraisers. And, it just takes a little while to get everything nailed down. So a lot of great stuff going on here, but we've got to keep this network going. This is, your phone call is the lifeblood to this network. Your phone call, your contribution, whether it's $10 or $10,000, whatever it may be, or anywhere in between. Number one will be doubled today by our friend Mike in San Francisco, and number two, and tomorrow. And number two is what keeps this network going. It keeps us on the air. We really appreciate it, and we really need your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a contribution of $80, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the Stamp Stampede stamp from Ben Cohen's group. This one that we're showing a picture of here says not to be used for buying elections. They offer that one, but the one specifically that we're giving out at this time, we don't have an image for it, unfortunately. Somehow we didn't get a picture, but it is, it's about stopping Big Pharma from ripping us off. And, you stamp all your money with it, and every dollar bill, on average, 760 people see it before the government recycles it. And so it's a great way to get the message out. This is from Ben Cohen's Stamp Stampede thing, Ben of Ben & Jerry's. That's with an $80 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the stamp and the water bottle and the brand new novel just out. I just got my copy a couple weeks ago about it, and although I'd seen an earlier draft, by Mike Papantonio, new novel, Law and Vengeance. And it's an amazing story. It's just, if you like reading fiction, you're going to love it. And if you have friends who like reading fiction, it makes a great gift, as do all of these things. With the $240 gift, which again becomes $480 as soon as you give it, because Mike is going to match your gift. With a $240 gift, you get the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. You get Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus, you get They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer, a story about how it happened in Germany. And it's a cautionary tale, I'm telling you. This is a really important book. With a $360 gift, which instantly becomes $720 because of Mike's match. When you make a $360 pledge today, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle, the anti-pharma stamp, Mike Papantonio's book, Law and Vengeance, Milton Mayer's book, They Thought They Were Free, and my book, Unequal Protection, which is a book about how the Supreme Court has basically screwed America. For a $480 gift, which instantly becomes $960, if I'm doing my math right in my head, you get all those books, the water bottle, Mike Papantonio's, Milton Mayer's, my book, plus Democracy in Chains by Nancy MacLean. And with a $1,000 gift, and we'll work it out either in Portland or in D.C. to get together and have a meal. So please call now, 877-378-8669. This is serious stuff. We really need your help. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Well, Donald Trump is out there selling his tax scam. And, it's symptomatic of so many things in the United States. There's this, what's the word? There is this struggle among TV commentators and I even heard this on NPR this morning, among analysts and news people, this struggle to explain why Americans are so upset with politicians. Why is it that Congress has a 15% approval rating? Why is it that the Republican Party has like a 25% approval rating? The Democratic Party's, it's higher than the Republicans, but it's still less than 50%. Why, I believe. Why is that? And everybody's sitting around, just kind of torturing the language, trying to say, there's this, people are unhappy, and, that explains, why Judge Moore was elected down in Alabama, and that explains why Donald Trump became president, and that explains the Bernie phenomena. And I think it does actually explain all those things, that people are really upset with politics and they're really upset with politicians, but it doesn't explain why. And I think it's really important to talk about the why. The why is something that you're not going to hear discussed in any of the elite media because they're part of the why. But the reason why people are upset is really encapsulated well in this headline from Common Dreams story from the 27th of September, Publishing Common Dreams, written by Jake Johnson. Just the headline says the whole thing. Consumer survey shows 2/3 of Americans oppose the FCC's plan to destroy free and open internet. 2/3 of Americans want to keep net neutrality. The vast majority of Americans think that corporate taxes should go up, not down. The vast majority of Americans think that wealth inequality is a problem. The vast majority of Americans think that rich people should be paying higher taxes, not lower taxes. The vast majority of Americans, you can just go through the list. They think that the air and the water should be protected by the EPA, while Scott Pruitt is taking apart the EPA. They think our public lands should be protected by the Department of Interior, while Ryan Zinke is trying to sell them off to mining and coal and drilling interests. The vast majority of Americans believe that everybody should have access to health care as a right. None of these things are being put into law, right? None of the things that the vast majority of Americans want are being legislated. In fact, if anything, we're getting quite literally the exact opposite. The majority of Americans want net neutrality. Trump says no net neutrality. He puts Ajit Pai in there in charge of the FCC, and he's gonna wreck it. The vast majority of Americans want us to be protected from banksters. You know, the legislation that was passed. It was 2 years ago, this was at the end of the toward the end of the Obama administration, that would protect us from Wall Street. The Trump administration is trying to defenestrate it, to throw it out the window. The Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, the CFPB. The vast majority of Americans would like to be protected from the banks. In fact, the CFPB has recovered literally tens of billions of dollars from banksters and returned it to consumers, people like you and me, that was fraudulently taken from us. We want this. But what are the Republicans doing? They're trying to destroy it. What it all boils down to, the why is very simple. The why is very, very simple. And this is the study that Page and Gillens came out with from, I think it was Northwestern University, back, 3 years ago, thereabouts. We talked about it on this program at some length. We had one of them on, one of the two scientists who did this study. And what they found was that what the top 1%, well, actually what the top 5% want, has a measurable and relatively high probability of being made into law. I don't recall the percentage. I think it was around 80%. But they have what the top 5, maybe the top 10% even, what the top, the marginal top wants gets made into law. But what the bottom 90% of Americans want, the probability of that being made into law is equivalent to, statistically equivalent to random noise. In other words, we're all just being completely ignored. We're getting, Trump is out there going quack, 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 quack. He's saying, oh yeah, I'm going to cut middle class taxes, and we're gonna protect the air. And Bush tried this with his Clean Skies initiative, a clean and healthy forests initiative, which was just nonsense. I mean, they were just marketing slogans. They were lies. This healthy forest initiative was to cut down more trees, and not in a healthy way. I mean, if you want healthy forests, fine. Log them selectively. Louise and I used to have 400 acres in Vermont, and we had a guy with a horse come in and log it to make the forest healthy. Yeah, you can manage a forest, but clear cutting? I mean, that was what that was what Bush was proposing. And now, of course, it's this tax thing. Bruce Bartlett was the guy in the Reagan administration who helped write, when he was working with Jack Kemp, helped write the Bush tax cuts. Bruce Bartlett. And he's got a piece in today's Washington Post. And I'm just going to share a few quotes from it with you. 4 decades ago, he writes, while working for Jack Kemp, Republican in New York, I had a hand in creating the Republican tax myth. Of course, it didn't seem like a myth at that time. And then he goes through and he lays out what the myth is, which is basically if you cut taxes, the economy booms. And then he says, in reality, there is no evidence that a tax cut now would spur growth. And then he goes back to the 80s. He says the prosperity of the 80s is overrated in the Republican mind. In fact, aggregate real gross domestic product growth was higher in the 70s, 37% versus 35% than in the 80s. Moreover, he said GOP tax mythology usually leaves out really what is the biggest thing, and that's the Federal Reserve. I mean, I keep telling you, why is the stock market going up? Because the Fed's keeping the interest rates at 2% and below. What does that mean? It means the companies can borrow money and use that money to buy back their own stock and jack up their stock prices. We're in a bubble market that's driven by the Fed. Well, the Fed can also kill markets. And what all these Republicans forget was that when Ronald Reagan became president, the Fed had set the Fed fund rate, the rate at which the Fed will loan to banks or banks loan to each other overnight, at 19%. Now, that really slows down an economy. And the whole point was to slow down inflation, which was the result of the Arab oil boycott of the previous years of the 70s. But they, the Fed was trying to kill inflation, and they did it by raising interest rates to 19%. Well, by November of 1982, so we're, into the tail end of the second year of Reagan's administration, the Fed dropped the federal fund rate from 19% to 9%. I mean, if the Fed today cut interest rates in half, you'd see a huge stimulus. Of course. It's a bubble-driven stimulus, but it's a stimulus. And then he says, of course, and then there was also the bounce back from the recession. And also, he says, Reagan's defense buildup and highway construction programs greatly increased the federal government's purchase of goods and services. This, writes Bruce Bartlett, is textbook Keynesian economics. He said there is no evidence. Now, keep in mind, this is the guy who wrote Reagan's policies. Quote, there is no evidence showing a boost in growth from the 1986 Act. The economy remained on the same track with huge stock market crashes. 1987's Black Monday, 1989's Friday the 13th mini crash, and a recession beginning in 1900, and real wages fell. Strenuous efforts by economists to find any growth effect from the 1986 Act have failed to find much. This is Bruce Bartlett. This is the guy who wrote Reagan's tax plans, saying, come on, it's nonsense. In addition to that, actually, I'll put that over there. In addition to that, here's what is in the news right now. Bloomberg. I'll just read you the headlines. Bloomberg, GOP tax plan has large tax breaks for highest earners. USA Today, Trump's tax plan could actually benefit wealthy people like him. USA Today editorial, many Trump voters will get zero from Republican tax framework. New York Times, Trump tax plan benefits wealthy, including Trump. Axios, Trump skeptical of his own plan. NBC News, GOP rhetoric on new tax plan doesn't match reality. NBC News, tax plan impact a mystery for the middle class, but not for Trump. CNBC, GOP tax plan is the great con. So, they're quoting Richard Trumka. New York Times, Trump misleads on who benefits from tax plan. Washington Post, Trump's spin doesn't match his tax plan. Business Insider, the double standard deduction in the GOP tax plan is a lie. In other words, actually, yes, he wants to raise the standard deduction, but he's doing away with individual deductions. So actually, a family of four, a married couple with two kids earning $45,000 a year or less will actually be paying more taxes under this plan. LA Times, here's why Trump's tax plan will hit Californians especially hard. LA Times, don't buy the spin. The new tax plan is a huge giveaway to the rich. See, this is what's been going on basically ever since the Reagan Revolution. Is politicians come to Washington, D.C., and they figure out, well, they're told what the billionaires want, and they have to come up with a way of doing it that's acceptable to the suckers who watch Fox News. And so, they come up with these elaborate lies, the Laffer curve and supply side economics and trickle down. They're just elaborate lies. And sometimes they're not even elaborate. Oh, there's no such thing as global warming. Well, the majority of Americans now believe that the intensity of hurricanes is being fueled by global warming, which, by the way, is true. But the Republicans are still lying to us. This is why our politics is broken, because the Supreme Court has made law and struck down law in a way that has basically turned control of our political system over to a small group of billionaires.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
A small group of billionaires that Clarence Thomas and Antonin Scalia every year went and visited and hung out with and spoke to. And now Neil Gorsuch is doing the same. Welcome back. Oh, my, oh, my. Let's see here. Jesse in Miami, Florida. Hey, Jesse, what's on your mind today?
Hey, hi, Tom. Everything you talked about, but mainly with the Federal Reserve. I left the question you answered before, Jesse. We need to take over the Fed, but we need to do it democratically. Okay, that's the question. How do we do it democratically? How do we take over the Federal
We nationalize
Reserve?
it. We make the Fed part of the Treasury Department.
How?
You just pass a law saying this is the way it is now.
How can we pass a law when we got a dictatorship as government?
Well, there's the problem, Jesse. This is, if the top 10% wanted it, it would have already happened. The top 10% don't want it. They're quite happy with, the privatized Fed or semi-privatized Fed and lax regulation of our banking system. In fact, many in the top 10% or top 1% got there by virtue of being banksters. And
can I make a question?
Sure.
It's going to be tough, but hey, Jesus Christ fell the Roman Empire with there's only one God. I think we could fell this thing with there's only one economy, and that would be one of equality.
Yeah.
I don't think only the insane would argue it. So if we're going to free our money, we got to free our minds. So that's my suggestion.
Very, very well said, Jesse, and very well said. Thank you. It's always nice to hear from you. Anita in San Antonio. Hey, Anita. Thanks for watching Free Speech.
Hey,
What's up?
Hey. Our system our system is failing. But the reason it's failing is because for 40 years, white America has been voting against their own self-interest. And why have they been doing that? Because they have been voluntarily falling for these racist dog whistles for 40 years.
Oh, yeah.
So to blame, all politicians, or to blame all the money we allowed that money into the system by voting for these people.
Well, what actually, we voted for a bunch of people who took the money out of the system in 1973. After the Nixon scandals, there was strong legislation passed that limited the role of money in politics. The Supreme Court struck that down in 1976 in the Buckley case.
But why did we continue to vote? Look at Kansas. Look at Kansas. This guy Brownback, he used the old Laffer curve as his template, and he made it public. This is going to be his a shining example of how this works.
Yes.
It failed miserably, but people reelected him.
Yes.
Why? We have continued to fail our system. The American people, the voters, it's not anybody's fault but our own, and it's white Americans' fault.
Yeah.
Because we have fallen for these racist dog whistles election after election.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, Anita. I would add to it, though, that there have been attempts by politicians in both parties. In the 73-74 campaign finance regulation, there were several. There were 3 or 4 laws that were passed back then. They were consequential. They were serious attempts, seriously clean up politics. And as I said, the Supreme Court struck them down. You could argue that the Supreme Court is there by virtue of our stupid elections. But I would point out that Nixon committed treason to become president. Reagan committed treason to become president. George W. Bush did not win an election. He was appointed by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has really screwed this thing up. Anita, thank you for the call.
Hi, I'm Valerie with Free Speech TV. We're proud to provide you with independent, unfiltered news and documentaries. And as our valued viewer, you can help us continue bringing Free Speech TV well into the future. Join our Pearly Gate Rebels, our planned giving program. Your gift of any size will help ensure democracy endures through an informed citizenry. You can donate property, money, or assets. It's easy. My spouse and I are proud Pearly Gate Rebels. We're doing our part to ensure that Free Speech TV will be here to deliver thought-provoking news and information well into the future. Join us. Call 877-378-8669 or email me at valerie@freespeech.org. Rebel against media owned by billionaires and become one of our Pearly Gate Rebels today.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. So, I started this rant about how, the majority of Americans want net neutrality. We're going to lose net neutrality if Trump and Ajit Pai and all this, if they have their way. Trump is, and the whole politics is broken thing is because our politicians are not doing what we want. And they're not doing what we want because they're not listening to us. They're listening to the donor class. And the donor class has the power that it has because the Supreme Court gave it that power. That's it in a nutshell. So Trump is out there saying, oh, we need to stimulate the economy, right? And he's echoing the lies that Reagan told, although I think that probably Reagan believed them, and Bruce Bartlett, for that matter, probably believed them in the 1980s, that if we cut taxes, we would stimulate economic growth. I mean, history now clearly demonstrates that not only is that not the case, but the opposite is the case. That if the goal of your country/economy is to have a strong middle class, there is a clear, demonstrable, measurable, graphable relationship between top tax rates on the very wealthy and whether or not the middle class is healthy. The higher the tax rates on the rich, the stronger the middle class. The lower the tax rates on the rich, the weaker the middle class, or the smaller the middle class becomes, and the larger the class of the working poor and the poor becomes. It is just that simple. It's absolute truth. It's easily demonstrated. And when you look around the world, you look at the countries where oligarchs are erupting and you've got conspicuous wealth next door to mind-numbing slums, those are places with very low tax rates for their very wealthy. And then when you look around the world at places where there's a very strong and vital middle class, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Germany, France, what do you have? You have very high taxes on the very rich and on corporations. Trump is trying to hustle this thing. Now, what are the Europeans doing? Mario Draghi is the chair or the president. Yeah, he's the president of the European Central Bank, the ECB. So he's like Janet Yellen for Europe. Probably the most well-informed economist or a guy in charge of the economy in the world. And this is the front story of the Financial Times today. He just recommended that the unions in Europe ask this year for a 6% wage increase because raising wages stimulates the economy. He's not talking about tax cuts. He's talking about wage increases. This is a guy who's talking reality.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Here, instead of reality, all we get is this BS shoveled at us from our politicians straight through the think tanks funded by the billionaires.
How would you like to know that when you call Free Speech TV and make a $10 gift, the Free Speech TV gets 20. That when you call and make a $100 gift, they get 200. That when you call and make a $480 gift, they get $960. That when you call and make a $1,000 gift, they get $2,000. How'd you like to know that? Well, that's the case today and tomorrow, because Mike in San Francisco has made a matching gift challenge up to $20,000 for the next 2 days. This is, thank you, Mike. So any gift, you want to make a $10,000 gift, it becomes $20,000. Whatever you give today and tomorrow will be doubled. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and make a contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. We were about $1,000 short of our goal yesterday, which is, not bad given that we've had some days where we were $4,000 and $5,000 short. But let's try to hit that goal today. Let's try to make today a $10,000 day, for this program and really make it work. For our part of the fundraising for Free Speech TV, because every program is also doing fundraising and has their own goals, and this is ours. And we need to hit this. I mean, we've got to keep the electrons flowing. We've got to keep the lights on. There are expenses running a television network, even a little engine that could television network like this, which is filled with extraordinary people and some great talent, and is supported by you. It's not here because some billionaire moved here from Australia and decided that he was going to change the politics of America. Free Speech TV is not here because, so a bunch of fat cats in New York got together and said, hey, let's make some money in the media. Now, it's here because, well, back in the day, John Schwartz and some friends of his got together and said, let's do some educational nonprofit television programming. And it has evolved over I think it's 17 years now. It has evolved to be what it is now, which is extraordinary how far this network has come. And we're now on Dish, we're now on Direct, we're on Roku, we're picking up Apple TV. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming down the road, that's in process right now that we funded with previous fundraisers. And, it just takes a little while to get everything nailed down. So a lot of great stuff going on here, but we've got to keep this network going. This is, your phone call is the lifeblood to this network. Your phone call, your contribution, whether it's $10 or $10,000, whatever it may be, or anywhere in between, number one will be doubled today by our friend Mike in San Francisco, and number two, and tomorrow. And number two is what keeps this network going. It keeps us on the air. We really appreciate it. And we really need your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a contribution of $80, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the Stamp Stampede stamp from Ben Cohen's group. This one that we're showing a picture of here says not to be used for buying elections. They offer that one, but the one specifically that we're giving out at this time, we don't have an image for it, unfortunately. Somehow we didn't get a picture. But it is, it's about stopping Big Pharma from ripping us off. And, you stamp all your money with it, and every dollar bill, on average, 760 people see it before the government recycles it. And so it's a great way to get the message out. This is from Ben Cohen's Stamp Stampede thing, Ben of Ben & Jerry's. That's with an $80 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the stamp and the water bottle and the brand new novel just out. I just got my copy a couple weeks ago about it, and although I'd seen an earlier draft, by Mike Papantonio, new novel, Law and Vengeance. And it's an amazing story. It's just, if you like reading fiction, you're going to love it. And if you have friends who like reading fiction, it makes a great gift, as do all of these things. With the $240 gift, which again becomes $480 as soon as you give it, because Mike is going to match your gift. With a $240 gift, you get the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. You get Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus, you get They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer. a story about how it happened in Germany. And it's a cautionary tale. I'm telling you, this is a really important book. With a $360 gift, which instantly becomes $720 because of Mike's match. When you make a $360 pledge today, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle, the anti-pharma stamp, Mike Papantonio's book, Law and Vengeance, Milton Mayer's book, they thought they were free, and my book, Unequal Protection, which is a book about how the Supreme Court has basically screwed America. For a $480 gift, which instantly becomes $960 if I'm doing my math right in my head, you get all those books, the water bottle, Mike Papantonio's, Milton Mayer's, my book, plus Democracy in Chains by Nancy MacLean. And with a $1,000 gift, and we'll work it out either in Portland or in D.C. to get together and have a meal. So please call now, 877-378-8669. This is serious stuff. We really need your help. Thank you. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. The situation in Puerto Rico is really, really bad. And, you know, we're not ever reminded of it because it happened to, or, you know, on the watch of a Republican president. But about 2,000 people died in Hurricane Katrina, in large part because of the failure of appropriate response by the Bush administration. I'm guessing there's going to be more than that who die in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I mean, so far it's you know, in the 30s, I think, but I mean, literally 30 people, which is really good. And let's hope it doesn't go up from that. But we're just starting to get a sense of how bad things are. And now comes the news that the Trump administration is saying if you leave the island, if you're an evacuee, if you leave the island, even on a military plane, you know, even if the government evacuates you, you owe the government an amount of money equal to the full fare price of a commercial airplane ticket. And they are keeping your passport until you pay it back. These are impoverished Puerto Ricans who are American citizens. I mean, it's just insane what's going on. It's just absolutely insane. Scott in Alameda, California. Hey, Scott, what's on your mind?
Hey, so one of the things that I'm watching for is the people to really start breaking this tax thing down so they can tell their friends about it, so they can discuss it and be knowledgeable about it. And I heard a really good breakdown last night, and there's really three areas. The 8%, the lowest tax rate, goes up to 12%.
Right. It's actually, I think it's currently 10, but yeah, it goes up to 12.
Okay, so it goes up to 12. 39.6, which I think is the highest, goes down. So
to 35. Right.
The most wealthy people get a cut.
Yep.
The standard deduction doubles, and this is the little bait for the middle class. It doubles for a first person like myself, which is a family of three filing jointly. It goes from $12,700 to $25,400, but the personal exemption goes away.
Right.
So that would be if I got this right.
So you can no longer deduct yourself and your wife, basically.
Yeah. So, but then they roll back in $1,000 tax credit, which will eventually sunset when your child moves out.
Right.
So, you know, the middle class is gonna be left with crumbs once again.
Right. If you're making less than $50,000 and you have more than one child, you will probably pay actually more in federal income taxes.
Yeah. So people need to remember that they're slamming the lowest bracket, they're rewarding the highest bracket, and we've seen what type of people. Not everybody, but these people in this highest bracket are just the most god awful people in the world.
Well, not all of them, but
I know.
there are a few.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying. They're just showing their true, you know, stripes every single day.
Yep.
And you're going to reward these people, and they're destroying everything.
Yep. And that's the thing. I mean, again, the vast majority of Americans are not on board with this. Now, there's going to be this enormous sales pitch
And everybody's going to say, "Oh yeah, it happened." If they pass this, which is still, I mean, the legislation literally has not yet been written. What we have is a 9-page outline, which is expanded from the original 1-page outline. You'll recall, from 5-6 months ago. But it's clearly going to benefit the Mnuchins of the world, the Cohns of the world, the economic advisors to Trump, the Trumps of the world. It's clearly going to benefit them, eliminating the estate tax in particular, and eliminating the alternative minimum tax. I could understand raising the alternative minimum tax so it doesn't hit people who are making in the low, 100 to 150 or thereabouts, who live in high cost cities. If you're living in downtown San Francisco or something, I could get changing that slightly. But, in 2005, the 1 year for which we have a short form tax return, or the front page of Donald Trump's tax returns, he paid $35 million in taxes, and $30 million of it was the alternative minimum tax. So, of course, he wants to get rid of the alternative minimum tax, because it's the tax, particularly if you're a real estate developer and you've got all these ways and you're doing pass-through income. And by the way, the pass-through income, which is how Trump gets his money, it's how, a lot of business owners, privately held businesses, companies that are not publicly traded, how a lot of business owners get their money. Pass-through income is going to go from the personal income tax rate, which is where it's at right now, 39.6%. It's going to go down to 25%. So it's like, and they're saying this is for small businesses. Well, small businesses, there are some huge corporations that are pass-through entities. And, the Trump Organization is one of them. And that's not even, one of the really huge ones. So, yeah, this is nothing more than the payback to the donor class for getting the Republicans elected. It's that simple. And the question in my mind is, if the Republicans cannot pass this thing, is the donor class going to say, screw it. We're going to go back to the, pre-1980s, stop being politically active, go back to running our businesses and being good citizens? Or are they going to double down on the crazy and actually try to turn the United States into a third world country, full bore, flat out, right over the screaming objection of Americans? And if they do that, you think that the Tea Party and the Bernie phenomena and the whole thing on both left and right, people saying, and, Antifa and everything else, people saying, hey, enough. It's not, this system doesn't work. The system is corrupt. The system is broken. We're in the streets. We're fighting back. You think you've seen some upsets or some uproar so far? It will be unbelievable, in my opinion. So it'll be substantial. So that's what I'm seeing. Scott, excellent points all. Thank you for the call. Ann in Littlefield, Texas. Hey, Ann, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. First of all, I want to thank you for your excellent work.
Thank you.
I don't know how I would keep my sanity if it weren't for Free Speech TV.
Yeah.
But, it's really difficult to understand people voting against their own best interest. And they will staunchly defend that. Mm-hmm. Maybe just because they don't want to admit they were fooled, for lack of a better word.
Could be.
The
the problem is this alternative reality, this bizarro world, has its own internal structure, its own internal mythology, as Bruce Bartlett pointed out in his op-ed in today's Washington Post. And it is continuously, daily, spoon-fed to people who watch Fox so-called news and listen to right-wing hate radio. It's constantly there. And so the consequence of that is that, people aren't, they're not only not going to admit that they've been played as suckers, they don't even realize it, right? They think they're doing the right thing. They think that they're loyal, patriotic Americans, and that they just can't figure out why those evil liberals would want to tax rich people, for example. It's very strange.
I'm one of the probably maybe half dozen progressive thinking people in my small rural town.
Oh my goodness.
And it seems that way. But if you, for example, if you go on Facebook and try to point a fact out to them, they attack with a passion.
Yeah.
I don't know. And mostly the things I post are links to the actual bill.
Right, right.
But I think that's too much for some people. Either they're too timid.
What has happened is that these
Yeah.
billionaires and this right-wing media that they control, by and large, have balkanized the United States. They're setting up the next civil war, and I don't mean that literally as a war like we're shooting at each other, but it's at the level of culture, at the level of politics. We are in the midst of a civil war. This country is tearing itself apart, and what is driving the entire process is money from a few hundred billionaires and multimillionaires and some very, very large corporations that help make them rich. And it's really just that simple. And we need to fix that, and it's going to be very, very hard to do as long as the Supreme Court keeps saying that money is free speech and that corporations are people. And I have to move along, but thank you for the call, and keep up your Facebook activism. Maybe you should start a drinking liberally or eating liberally group there in Littlefield, Texas, and get together with the other 6 progressives every week or every once a month or something. And I wish you well. Thank you for the call. George in Chicago. Hey, George, what's on your mind?
Well, you already brought up the point that I wanted to address, is this hideous policy that was reported in Marketplace this morning and verified by The Hill, and also was reported on by a caller on the Stephanie Miller show, and she and their staff verified it, that the evacuees have to pay for their transport, sign IOUs, and surrender their passports as collateral. I don't even understand the legal basis for the action with the passports. Travel between the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico to the mainland is domestic travel. You don't need a passport for it. So how can they demand your passport? I bet a lot of people in the islands probably only travel like to Florida or New York.
Yeah. The reason why they can do this, George, is because passports are not actually your property. Your passport you do not own. It's the property of the federal government. So the federal government can require you to surrender your passport to them under a wide variety of circumstances. This is one of them. Whereas they couldn't say, you have to give us the PIN number for your checking account or something like that, So essentially, it's collateral.
Yeah. I tried to call the White House comment line immediately after I heard the story.
Yeah.
I was on hold for 40 minutes. I got a volunteer who was, shall I say, rather snippy and impolite with me when I brought up what I brought up.
Yeah.
And basically hung up on me.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't even think they have to go through the basic niceties of common courtesy with people who oppose Trump.
Well, that's because you're part of the 99%, George. They're only listening to the 1%. They don't give a damn about what you have to say or what I have to say or what most Americans have to say until it's time to vote, and then they just want to make sure that we believe the lies that they're promoting, with their ads and whatnot. So,
Also, I believe this happened yesterday. Trump was mocking John McCain's inability to raise his arms over his shoulders because of the torture he endured.
Wow.
Trump was making arm motions to mock that. So it's bad enough that he mocked Captain Khan and his Gold Star family, and he's been consistently mocking John McCain.
Yeah, this is not a good thing. George, we're out of time, but thank you.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
You look up class in the dictionary, you definitely, as in classy, right? Stay classy. You definitely don't see a picture of Donald Trump. We'll be back. And welcome back. Tom, watching Free Speech TV in Champaign, Illinois. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Dom, good to talk to you. You mentioned net neutrality, and the Senate is debating that Ajit Pai as whether or not they're going to be elected to the FCC chair. So I think people should probably be calling their congressmen if they're interested in net neutrality at all.
I agree that people need to be calling the members of Congress about net neutrality. I believe, though, that Ajit Pai is already the head of the FCC.
Well,
he's up for reappointment?
C-SPAN right now.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an old debate. I don't know.
I see.
Oh, interesting. I didn't. Somehow I missed that. Yeah, Troy just confirmed that that it's time to reappoint him essentially.
Yeah.
So
the Equifax robbery is a question that, like if a local bank got robbed, the police would have people's pictures on the paper or on the news or everywhere, but this Equifax robbery, nobody seems to be excited. It's like as if they knew it was going to happen.
Well, and part of it is that it happened half a year ago, and now we're finding out about it. So it's a little late for the outrage. I think what's happening now is companies like LifeLock are starting to aggressively advertise and make some serious money, protecting people's credit stuff.
Yeah, but they've made everybody, like your chance of being robbed are excellent.
Yeah.
If everybody's got all your information.
Oh yeah, yeah. Identity theft is
143 million robberies.
Yeah, it's probably going to explode. I'm totally with you, Tom. Thanks for the call and thanks for the information on Ajit Pai. I appreciate that. It's really great having listeners who actually know more than I do. Noelle in Riverside, California. Hey, Noelle, what's up?
Hi. Well, I just wanted to state that the comments about people voting against themselves, if you think about it, Democratic Party has won since the year 2000, really, and voting machines, well, in the Supreme Court, they fixed that, they changed it for Bush, but if you think about it, Democratic Party has won since 2000, and with Trump, the popular vote, Hillary actually got, but if you take into consideration all the voter, suppression and I don't know how many demonstrations they have to have with the voting machines proving how easily they can be hacked for, I've been saying this for over 10 years, and nobody seems to be paying attention. Until that's fixed, Democrats are going to see, and we're not voting against ourselves, it's the voting machines and the system, because there's more people on the good side than there are on the bad side.
Well, look at what Greg Palast just revealed over the last couple of days. Not just Greg. I mean, there was a study done by the University of Wisconsin at Madison that found that the number of voters who were not allowed, registered voters who were not allowed to vote in the 2016 election in Wisconsin was greater than the Trump margin of victory. Voter suppression by Scott Walker and his Republican cronies in Wisconsin worked. It handed the election off to Donald Trump in Wisconsin. And it probably, did the same thing for a bunch of Republicans at the state office level as well. And,
no doubt.
And now they're taking it national. I mean, they're just doing this all across the country. So I agree with you. Our legislative system is corrupt, but our voting system has been privatized. And now, we're back to, a brand new form of Jim Crow. Noelle, thanks for the call. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And MJ in Asheville, North Carolina. Hey, MJ, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Well, I was tuning in about the time that you were talking about the vast majority of Americans and so many issues on which we do all agree, on health care, on education, on net neutrality. And I'm remembering that a lot of the time you remind us that the vast majority of Americans don't know what to do to fix it, don't know what to do to get money out of politics, don't know what to do to change the fact that our politicians are not listening to us. And what you remind us to do on a regular basis is to participate in the process. We were raised to think, at least I was raised to believe that I was supposed to vote, that was my civic duty. And I was raised to believe, and I think most of us were raised to believe, that we should educate ourselves on the candidates and the issues that we were about to vote on. Too many of us don't vote. Fewer of us actually educate ourselves. But what we weren't raised to do was to actually take part in preserving, and in this case now we need to restore our democracy. We weren't taught that we need to get on the school board or join the ACLU or participate in party politics at the local level or call our Congress people on a regular basis.
Right.
And I think we are, as as a citizenry being called upon to do that now. If we want to see a difference, we need to take that extra time where we, at least most of us were raised to think that we need to volunteer in the community. And a lot of that volunteerism needs to go into participating at the grassroots level in some way.
Yeah, it's time for some serious citizen involvement. And I think it's happening. I really do.
It is. And I see that in my community. I live mostly in Key West, Florida, and we have a huge women's march movement. They keep us appraised and apprised of what's going on in the community. And by the way, thank you so much for your education on progressive issues. I don't know what I would do without you. But yes, I do see change. I think that's the silver lining to the Trump presidency, is that people are standing up and going, oh, no, you don't.
Yep.
I'll have to do something now.
Yep.
So I see that as a silver lining, and I love what you do, and I thank you so much.
Thank you, MJ. Thank you very much, and thanks for your kind words. And spot on. Yeah, we've got to get involved. We've got to actually become the politicians. Mark, or at least become the party. Mark in Chicago. Hey, Mark, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. I really appreciate your show.
Thank you.
What I found really interesting is that I had to do some searches for articles to find out what the voter turnout in Alabama was, which was only 14%. Right. And it seems pretty pervasive that the conversation about voter turnout doesn't happen that much, which is convenient for the establishment.
Yeah, in other words, 7% of Alabamans sent, if I'm using the word right, sent Roy Moore to the election for the Senate.
Yeah. I mean, I'm calling in Illinois, and we have a very unpopular Republican governor and a very unpopular Democratic mayor, but they're both members of the 1%. And Rahm Emanuel, when he ran, he used the money to run so many TV ads that he created a sense of inevitability, and voter turnout was like a little over 30%. But what brings to mind is that while the money is definitely a strategic tool, it's psychological warfare. The money isn't literally keeping people from voting, but it's creating a psychological environment where either people feel it's an inevitability, or in what I read about in Alabama is that the money was used for TV advertising, and that Strange and Moore were so heinously negative against each other that a lot of people are like, well, I'm not going to vote. So it seems to me that it does give an avenue for organizing. And you're a Michigander, so you probably remember the bottle bill back in the 70s, which was tons of money was spent by the bottling industry, the beer and wine and soft drink industry against the bottle bill. But I think it was the Public Interest Research Group of Michigan, which spearheaded the movement to just get people out and vote.
And it worked.
It's a very different environment now. I mean, with TV.
But see, back then, also the media was willing to cover progressive initiatives, and they were willing to talk about things honestly, rather than, what would happen today with the bottle bill in Michigan thing back in the 70s is that the bottling companies would just start buying massive ad buys on radio and TV, and all of a sudden there would be no more coverage in the news of what was going on with the bottle bill. I was working in news in the 70s in Michigan, right up to 1978. I was working at WITL and doing news. And I don't specifically remember exactly when the bottle bill was, or even if we covered it when I was doing the news. But that's basically what we did is, we covered what is it that people need to know about, what is going on in the world, what is the news. And now it's, what's going to get what's the best clickbait, basically, what is going to get people to listen. What is going to get people outraged? What is going to make money for our advertisers? That's the bottom line. And, in commercial radio and television these days. And that sense of obligation, of patriotism, of even a professional sense of journalism has been largely lost. And, you see it in this town. I mean, I go to some of these events here in Washington, D.C., where there's a bunch of journalists, a bunch of politicians, and everybody's standing around in tuxedos and fancy, clothes and whatnot, drinking their champagne and laughing with each other. And it's like, really? I mean, it's it's enough. Mark, thanks a lot for the call. It's great to hear from you. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com. Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com. Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit tomsbeets.com. How would you like to know that when you call Free Speech TV and make a $10 gift, that Free Speech TV gets 20? That when you call and make a $100 gift, they get 200? That when you call and make a $480 gift, they get $960? That when you call and make a $1,000 gift, they get $2,000? How'd you like to know that? Well, that's the case today and tomorrow, because Mike in San Francisco has made a matching gift challenge up to $20,000 for the next 2 days. This is, thank you, Mike. So any gift, you want to make a $10,000 gift, it becomes $20,000. Whatever you give today and tomorrow will be doubled. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and make a contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. We were about $1,000 short of our goal yesterday, which is, not bad given that we've had some days where we were $4,000 and $5,000 short. But let's try to hit that goal today. Let's try to make today a $10,000 day, for this program and really make it work. For our part of the fundraising for Free Speech TV. Because every program is also doing fundraising and has their own goals, and this is ours. And we need to hit this. I mean, we've got to keep the electrons flowing. We've got to keep the lights on. There are expenses running a television network, even a little engine that could television network like this, which is filled with extraordinary people and some great talent, and is supported by you. It's not here because some billionaire moved here from Australia and decided that he was going to change the politics of America. Free Speech TV is not here because, so a bunch of fat cats in New York got together and said, hey, let's make some money in the media. No, it's here because, well, back in the day, John Schwartz and some friends of his got together and said, let's do some educational nonprofit television programming. And it has evolved over I think it's 17 years now. It has evolved to be what it is now, which is extraordinary how far this network has come. And we're now on Dish, we're now on Direct, we're on Roku, we're picking up Apple TV. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming down the road, that's in process right now that we funded with previous fundraisers. And, it just takes a little while to get everything
nailed down. So a lot of great stuff going on here, but we've got to keep this network going. This is, you know, your phone call is the lifeblood to this network. Your phone call, your contribution, whether it's $10 or $10,000, whatever it may be, or anywhere in between. Number one will be doubled today by our friend Mike in San Francisco, and number two, and tomorrow. And number two is what keeps this network going. It keeps us on the air. We really appreciate it, and we really need your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a contribution of $80, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the Stamp Stampede stamp from Ben Cohen's group. This one that we're showing a picture of here says not to be used for buying elections. They offer that one, but the one specifically that we're giving out at this time, we don't have an image for it, unfortunately. Somehow we didn't get a picture, but it is, it's about stopping Big Pharma from ripping us off. And, you stamp all your money with it, and every dollar bill, on average, 760 people see it before the government recycles it. And so it's a great way to get the message out. This is from Ben Cohen's Stamp Stampede thing, Ben of Ben & Jerry's. That's with an $80 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the stamp and the water bottle and the brand new novel just out. I just got my copy a couple weeks ago about it, and although I'd seen an earlier draft, by Mike Papantonio, new novel, Law and Vengeance. And it's an amazing story. It's just, if you like reading fiction, you're going to love it. And if you have friends who like reading fiction, it makes a great gift, as do all of these things. With the $240 gift, which again becomes $480 as soon as you give it, because Mike is going to match your gift. With a $240 gift, you get the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. You get Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus, you get They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. A very disturbing story in The Guardian today by, it's actually, in fact, I'm going to have to get to the Guardian website and get the author for this because for some reason it didn't print. But the story is about teachers. Here it is, outside in America, facing poverty. This is by Alistair Gee, in San Francisco. Facing poverty, academics turn to sex work and sleeping in cars. So last month, the Republicans told us that we couldn't afford to have health care for everybody in America. This month, they're telling us that we've got trillions of dollars to give to rich people and corporations in tax breaks. And all through the whole process, they're saying, we really can't fund our schools. The story starts out with the story of a university teacher. There's nothing she would rather do than teach. But after supplementing her career with tutoring and proofreading, the university lecturer decided to go to remarkable lengths and make her career financially viable. She first opted for her side gig. This is being a sex worker. During a particularly rough patch several years ago when her course load was suddenly cut in half and her income plunged, putting her on the brink of eviction. In my mind, I was like, okay, I've had one-night stands. How bad can it be? And it really wasn't all that bad, she said. The wry but weary-sounding middle-aged woman who lives in a large U.S. city and asked to remain anonymous to protect her reputation is an adjunct instructor, meaning she's not a full-time faculty member at any one institution, and strings together a living by teaching individual courses, in her case, at multiple colleges. She said, I feel committed to being a person who's there to help millennials, the next generation, go on to become critical thinkers. And I'm really good at it, and I really like it. And it's heartbreaking to me that it doesn't pay what I feel it should. A quarter of part-time college academics are said to be enrolled in public assistance programs such as Medicaid. A quarter. They resort to food banks and Goodwill. There's even an adjunct's cookbook that shows how to turn items like beef scrap, chicken bones, and orange peel into meals.
The Guardian has spoken to several academics who are literally either living on the streets or teetering on the edge of losing stable housing, including an adjunct living in a shack north of Miami and another sleeping in her car in Silicon Valley. The adjunct who turned to sex work estimates she puts in 60 hours a week as a teacher, but she struggles to make ends meet after paying $1,500 in monthly rent and with student loans that, including interest, amount to a few $100,000. This is nuts. Basically, going into the teaching profession, you know, it's like yesterday we had this. I had this debate with our Charles Sauer, our libertarian acquaintance, about airline pilots. And his whole thing was, well, you need to cut the standards because the airlines are experiencing a pilot shortage. Well, the airlines are experiencing a pilot shortage because they no longer pay decent wages. I mean, who wants to go $100,000 in debt to get a commercial license and all the ratings associated with it for a job that pays $35,000 a year? Which is not to say it's a terrible pay, but it's certainly, I mean, that's not something that somebody goes to college for years for and spends. I mean, it takes years to become a commercial pilot, and literally holds the lives of hundreds of people in their hands every single day. And these are our teachers. Our teachers are not making it. Now, yeah, I know there are some places where teachers make a lot of, make a good living. There are some places where the teachers' unions are still strong. They're still under siege. And there are some universities that pay well. You're going to, there will be right-wingers who will probably call into the show and say, oh, well, let me tell you how much, so-and-so makes teaching at the such and such school in New York City. It's $100,000 a year. What are you talking about? Well, yeah, there's still some remnants of good jobs out there. There was another article this morning in The Guardian, and I didn't print this one out. I'll just do it from memory here. But you can track it down. It was about the aging of our government. That back before Reagan, the average age of government employees was in their 30s. So you had a broad spectrum of people. You had people in their 20s working there, in their 30s, in their 40s, 50s, 60s. But the average age was in the mid-30s. The average age of government workers now is in the high 40s to low 50s. What is happening is that young people aren't going into government work. Now, why would that be? I mean, there's, government work in many cases is a good, stable job with a decent pension and good benefits. Except in Republican states. In Republican-controlled states, I mean, it's just wild what these people go through. I have friends and relatives in Michigan. I have one specifically who used to work programming computers, used to work for the state Supreme Court, and then they decided to privatize it. So a private contractor came in, and he got a job with the private contractor at actually a higher pay rate than the state had been paying him as an employee, but without the security and the benefits. I mean, it's just bizarre what goes on. And so people are not going into teaching. People are not going into government jobs. And of course, you get this continuous berating of government by right-wing media, right-wing hate radio, Fox so-called news, the whole billionaire machine. Because, frankly, the only power there is on earth that can restrain the behavior of a billionaire or a billion-dollar corporation, the only power that can restrain them is the power of government. That's it. It's not going to be you or me. It's going to be the power of government. And that, of course, is why billionaires fund these extensive campaigns to demonize and villainize government workers. It's part of their strategy to destroy our faith in our own country, so that our country will no longer be able to defend itself against the predation. And these are predators. Moving our jobs offshore, keeping their money offshore, stashing their money in tax havens, buying legislators so that they can get their patents extended, so that they can have essentially monopolies. In fact, patents used to be called monopolies back in the founding of this republic. Thomas Jefferson, in a letter to James Madison in December of 1787, told Madison that he felt that there should be an absolute ban on monopolies in commerce. No more patents, no more trademarks. Didn't happen. He later said in another correspondence with Madison, maybe, I don't know, 2 years later or so, he said he would accept 3 years. You know, by that time, it was in the Constitution. See, it was a debate about Article 1, Section 8. There is the Congress can pass laws to have trademarks and copyrights. But basically, what I'm pointing out here, and I think it needs to be said, and it will, and it is not being said in other media, tragically, and we need to be saying this, is that, you know, what Warren Buffett made a joke about maybe a decade ago, where he said, yes, there is class warfare in the United States. It's being waged by my class, the rich class, and we are winning. That was actually a profound truth. And that in order to cause us to not notice the class warfare in the United States being waged against the 99% by the 1%, or by some parts of the 1%. In order to prevent us from noticing that class warfare, they encourage us to notice racial warfare. This is what Donald Trump is doing right now with the whole NFL thing. And now, on Twitter this morning, I was seeing there's a couple of high schools now that are saying, you know, if you kneel during the national anthem, you are not going to be able to play, or you're going to get kicked off the team or whatever. Now, I doubt that will, make it through a court, but who knows? I mean, now that the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, is run by, crazed right-wingers, anything is possible. But the bottom line is that the reason why Trump is doing this NFL thing, the reason why he was doing the immigrant thing before that, the reason why, I mean, it's so obvious. It's don't pay attention to how we're robbing you. Don't pay attention to the class warfare that the billionaire class is waging against average working Americans. Don't pay attention to that. Don't talk about that. Don't mention that. Instead, talk about how, oh, those brown people from Mexico want to take your job. Or those black people down the street want to take your job. Or, whatever it may be. Look at, or the Muslims are going to come and mess with your community. It's all distraction. And not only is it distraction, but it's destructive distraction. When Trump and the Republicans engage in all of this racial, it's not even a dog whistle anymore, right? I mean, it's a bullhorn, but for purposes of discussion, as Trump and the Republicans engage, and right-wing hate radio and Fox so-called news engage in this kind of racialization of or heightening conflict around race in the United States. They are tearing apart the fabric of our country just so we won't pay attention to how they are robbing us. How they're trying to take our internet, our free, our net neutrality away from us so they can slice and dice the internet. How they're, what they're doing to the media, what they're doing to our public schools, what they're doing to our, how they want to privatize our infrastructure, how they're passing laws to make it difficult or even illegal to solarize your home, all for the benefit of the fossil fuel billionaires. We're being screwed by these people. We need to acknowledge it.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And the latest abomination is this so-called tax legislation that isn't even legislation. It's a 9-page summary. Welcome back. Joey in Las Vegas, Nevada. Hey, Joey, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Great show. Sorry about that. I have a bit of a detailed question, so I apologize in advance. So we're supposed to be a country of wow, I'm having a hard time. I apologize. Of, by, and for the people. Our elected officials are supposed to be in charge of doing what is in the best interest of the public on a whole, not just, the select 1%.
That was the theory. Yes.
In theory. We're supposed to be a country of checks and balances to prevent the current corrupt and semi-authoritarian system. But we have so many studies, like the one you cited earlier, showing that we're effectively an oligarchy. Our politicians don't even pretend to hide it anymore.
Yep.
So why is it that we have zero fail-safe measures in place? We don't have anything to stop this or to affect change in a positive way. I mean, I understand we have voting and it's supposed to be our form of action, though with all of the election machines owned by select few, the algorithms and the outcomes all being proprietary and hidden, and the voter suppression, everything that's going on. How do we have any proof that our votes actually count? So why have we not instituted better systems like ranked choice voting or direct ballot laws or some way to hold our politicians accountable? I mean,
because our politicians don't want to be held accountable. At least the Republicans don't, and then there's some Democrats who don't either. But Joey, you're so spot on, in your observation, and it seems to me that there's a few politicians, Mark Pocan, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. There's a few of them who will come right out and say the system has been corrupted. Here's how it's been corrupted. This is what the billionaires and their buddies and what these big corporations and the banksters and whatnot. This is what they're doing to us. They'll speak the truth, but they get marginalized in the media. But look at the Bernie phenomena. That tells me that Americans are awake, and more are waking up. So, that's my optimism, Joey. I just all we can do is just keep pushing through. Keep informing our friends. Be a political activist in social media, in your neighborhood, among your friends. That's relatives. And show up for your local Democratic Party. Get inside it if you can, and find there's lots of groups that have local chapters. To MoveToAmend.org, to ProgressiveDemocratsOfAmerica.org, PDAmerica.org, to Move On, to Drinking Liberally, to all kinds of things that people can participate in.
Definitely, especially with the Justice Democrats and all that. There's a new movement to try to get Bernie over to a new party, start a new party.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
I think those are definitely good measures to move forward. I just wonder how much. I mean, we have some pretty stringent opposition coming from our current politicians, and I don't know. It just almost feels like George Carlin was right. The owners of America want us to be just smart enough to do our jobs, but too stupid to question why.
Yeah, and he was, and those old George Carlin riffs that are, that live on in YouTube are, they were right then and they're right now, and in some ways they were even prescient. Joey, great to hear from you. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. We'll be back with more calls and more of the news of the day. Back. This is, back to the story of our teachers, right? Even more desperate are those adjuncts in substandard living spaces who cannot afford to fix them. Mindy Percival, 61, a lecturer with a doctorate from Columbia, teaches history at a state college in Florida, and in her words, lives in a shack, which is in the woods in the middle of nowhere. There's a photo of it in the article. It's a mobile home. It's, and the mobile home she inhabits, located in the town of Stuart, north of Miami, was donated to her about 8 years ago. It looks tidy on the outside, but inside there are holes in the floor and the paneling is peeling off the walls. She has no washing machine, and the oven, shower, and water heater don't work. I'm on the verge of homelessness, constantly on the verge, she said. Her 18-year-old car broke down after Hurricane Irma, and she's being driven to school by a former student paying $20 a day for gas. I'm trying to get out so terribly hard, she says. Homelessness is a genuine prospect for adjuncts. This is, this is the education industry is now, it's like the fast foodification of the education industry. Virtually every industry in the United States is being reduced to its lowest common denominator in terms of stripping pay and benefits away from citizens, away from workers, and moving that money to investors, to the donor class. Speaking of investors, Jared Kushner's real estate company just got sued. A class action lawsuit, this from Victoria Jones's newsletter. Class action lawsuit filed in Maryland State Court Wednesday alleges that Westminster Management, company owned by Jared Kushner, charged its tenants improper fees and used their failure to pay those fees as a basis to threaten them with eviction. The suit describes the charges as part of a fee-churning scheme that keeps renters under constant fear of eviction and constantly guessing what they owe. The suit was filed on behalf of Tanae Smith, a mother of two, and Howard Smith. The two are not related. They live in different apartment complexes. Tanae Smith, 28, is an attorney. She said, I work for full-time and I make regular payments, but they keep taking me to court for eviction and piling on the fees. Kushner, by the way, according to this report, made $5 million from this particular company last year. It's extraordinary. The lawsuit cites instances where both Smiths had paid their rent but were hit with late penalties because they had not paid extra fees that were allegedly misallocated to rent. The suit claims extra court fees were charged even though no court awarded them. If this suit is accurate, it looks like Jared Kushner is, as a businessman, just as corrupt as Donald Trump was. It's pretty mind-boggling. So keep an eye on this. We'll see where this goes. Ed O'Keefe in today's Washington Post writing, the headlines kind of say it all. White House is restricting lawmakers from visiting Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, aides say. You know, I started out talking about how bad things are in Puerto Rico right now. It is a humanitarian disaster. People are dying as we speak. And Donald Trump does not want bad press. Right? If there's anything in the world that Donald Trump cares about, it's what's on cable TV. He does not want bad press. And a Democratic legislator going down to Puerto Rico with a camera crew, that's his idea of a nightmare. So here it is. The Trump administration is restricting lawmakers in both parties from visiting storm-ravaged Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands aboard military aircraft this weekend in order to keep focused on recovery missions there. Right. Because having a congressman on the plane just makes it impossible to load it full of, bottled water and stuff, right?
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Sometimes the cynicism of these people depresses even me, and I'm pretty optimistic. We've got to take control of our politics. How would you like to know that when you call Free Speech TV and make a $10 gift, that Free Speech TV gets 20? That when you call and make a $100 gift, they get 200? That when you call and make a $480 gift, they get $960? That when you call and make a $1,000 gift, they get $2,000? How'd you like to know that? Well, that's the case today and tomorrow. Because Mike in San Francisco has made a matching gift challenge up to $20,000 for the next 2 days. This is, thank you, Mike. So any gift, you want to make a $10,000 gift, it becomes $20,000. Whatever you give today and tomorrow will be doubled. So please, call now, 877-378-8669,
and make a contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. We were about $1,000 short of our goal yesterday, which is, you know, not bad given that we've had some days where we were $4,000 and $5,000 short. But let's try to hit that goal today. Let's try to make today a $10,000 day, you know, for this program and really make it work. I mean, for our part of the fundraising for Free Speech TV, because every program is also doing fundraising and has their own goals, and this is ours. And we need to hit this. I mean, we've got to keep the electrons flowing. We've got to keep the lights on. You know, there are expenses running a television network, even the little engine that could television network like this, which is filled with extraordinary people and some great talent, and is supported by you. It's not here because some billionaire moved here from Australia and decided that he was going to change the politics of America. Free Speech TV is not here because, you know, so a bunch of fat cats in New York got together and said, hey, let's make some money in the media. Now, it's here because, well, back in the day, John Schwartz and some friends of his got together and said, let's do some educational nonprofit television programming. And it has evolved over I think it's 17 years now. It has evolved to be what it is now, which is extraordinary how far this network has come. And we're now on Dish, we're now on Direct, we're on Roku, we're picking up Apple TV. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming down the road, that's in process right now that we funded with previous fundraisers. And, you know, it just takes a little while to get everything nailed down. So a lot of great stuff going on here, but we've got to keep this network going. This is, you know, your phone call is the lifeblood to this network. Your phone call, your contribution, whether it's $10 or $10,000, whatever it may be, or anywhere in between. Number one will be doubled today by our friend Mike in San Francisco, and number two, and tomorrow. And number two is what keeps this network going. It keeps us on the air. We really appreciate it. And we really need your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a contribution of $80, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the Stamp Stampede stamp from Ben Cohen's group. This one that we're showing a picture of here says not to be used for buying elections. They offer that one, but the one specifically that we're giving out at this time, we don't have an image for it, unfortunately. Somehow we didn't get a picture. But it is, it's about stopping Big Pharma from ripping us off. And, you know, you stamp all your money with it, and every dollar bill, on average, 760 people see it before the government recycles it. And so it's a great way to get the message out. This is from Ben Cohen's Stamp Stampede thing, Ben of Ben & Jerry's. That's with an $80 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the stamp and the water bottle and the brand new novel just out. I just got my copy a couple weeks ago about it, you know, and although I'd seen an earlier draft, by Mike Papantonio, new novel, Law and Vengeance. And it's an amazing story. It's just, if you like reading fiction, you're going to love it. And if you have friends who like reading fiction, it makes a great gift, as do all of these things. With the $240 gift, which again becomes $480 as soon as you give it, because Mike is going to match your gift. With a $240 gift, you get the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. You get Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus, you get They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer, a story about how it happened in Germany. And it's a cautionary tale, I'm telling you. This is a really important book. With a $360 gift, which instantly becomes $720 because of Mike's match. When you make a $360 pledge today, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle, the anti-pharma stamp, Mike Papantonio's book, Law and Vengeance, Milton Mayer's book, They Thought They Were Free, and my book, Unequal Protection, which is a book about how the Supreme Court has basically screwed America. For a $480 gift, which instantly becomes $960, if I'm doing my math right in my head, you get all those books, the water bottle, Mike Papantonio's, Milton Mayer's, my book, plus Democracy in Chains by Nancy MacLean. And with a $1,000 gift, and it will work it out either in Portland or in D.C. to get together and have a meal. So please call now, 877-378-8669. This is serious stuff. We really need your help. Thank you.
Hey, want to hear that clip again? Subscribe to the Thom Hartmann Program on YouTube to see all your favorite show highlights. All the important stories we cover and the issues we care about are at HartmannReport.com. Members of our community can comment and join the conversation.
And there's a free Hartmann Report podcast over at iTunes. And at HartmannReport.com. Thank you. Amanda in Anza, California. Hey, Amanda, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, I just wanted to get back to the very first question you asked when you were talking about the distrust for government and where it comes from. And I think that the bottom line comes down to, as you know, all this going around it, our wages, because maybe people don't understand that how bad off the wages are compared to inflation. So I was thinking maybe if they could get a grasp. When I was working in 1994, I was making $10 an hour. It's now 2017, and I'm making $12 an hour. Right. And in 1994, I had a studio that was about 3 blocks from the beach in Carlsbad. And the rent was, I don't know, I think it was around $450 in 90, that was around 94. And maybe if people can understand those numbers, now the studio would probably be over, I'm sure it's well over $1,000 a month.
Yeah, probably 3 or 4.
It just seems that people don't quite understand when you're, at this level of income, how huge of a difference it is.
Right. When Reagan declared war on labor in 1981, when he took office, the first thing he did was destroy PATCO, the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization. When he started that process, and then I forget the name of the guy he put in as the head of the Department of Labor, but he was the first anti-labor person in the history of the Department of Labor to run that department. And every Republican since then has put somebody into the Department of Labor who hates labor. And Bush and Trump, and both Bushes and Trump, and the result of that is very straightforward, very easy to see. Between that and the changes in tax policies and corporate governance policies, is that the very wealthy have gotten mind-bogglingly rich in the United States, which raises average incomes and average wealth, but it doesn't raise the wealth of the middle class or the working people. It just, there's a lot more money sloshing around, but it's in a lot fewer hands. And that's absolutely what's going on. You're right, Amanda. And
I believe it would solve so many problems so easily if there was like a actual living minimum wage. I mean, we wouldn't have the Occupy Wall Street movement. We wouldn't have the Trumpers. I was a Bernie supporter because he was the only politician that actually said the numbers.
Right.
This is not a living wage,
right.
And I just think, personally, I wouldn't, if I could just afford a nice little place, a little car, a nice simple life. I can't at this stage of what I'm making. But if everyone could, we wouldn't. Honestly, I wouldn't care how much money they amass. Go ahead, amass all your wealth. But I think it's just causing so many problems. We need to bring unions back.
Yep.
And,
we do. And what's so amazing is that the head of the European Central Bank, Mario Draghi, and there's a front page of today's Financial Times, just came out and advised IG Metall, which is the largest workers' union in Germany, and represents some massive number of workers. It's sort of like the AFL-CIO of Germany. And they're in contract negotiations right now with all their employers. And everybody's expecting that they're going to get between 2.5% and 3.5% as an increase. And inflation right now in Germany is running around 1.5%. And Draghi suggested that, and I encourage you to check this out in the Financial Times, just came right out and said they should be asking for 6%, and I hope they get it. Because this is going to help put the economy back together. I mean, and whereas in the United States, what do? We get politician shills for billionaires who are saying, oh, you want to have a higher wage, working at Burger King? Well, just cut the taxes on the Koch brothers. Everything will be fine, right?
It's outrageous. And, you know, with the people who voted for Trump and the whole, you know, the environment is so important to me and so important to everyone. And it's one of those issues. I think so many people would be, they tell them, oh, they voted for Trump because, the regulation is what's making you're not getting good enough pay. It's the regulations on the you know, global warming regulations and corporations and this, that, and the other. It's like, no, it's if they could just have a living wage, they wouldn't fall for that nonsense.
Yep, I'm with you. It's it's an entire machine. It was created out of Lewis Powell's 1971 memo to Eugene Sindor, his neighbor and the head of the American Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And, you know, that memo said basically we've got to take over academia, we've got to take over the media, we've got to take over, business has to start getting politically active. We have to ultimately take over Congress and take over state houses. We need to take control of basically every sector of America. And that's what they've been doing and take over the courts. And they've been doing it aggressively, and it's a very well-funded effort by, you know, a small handful of very, 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 very wealthy people who have turned this country into an oligarchy. And we really need to turn it back into a democracy. Amanda, spot on. Thank you for the call. So well said. Joe in Cupertino, California. Hey, Joe, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, take you off speakerphone.
Thank you, Joe.
I'm sorry. Great show again. This class warfare you're talking about, the brown people. I've been in the way of that my whole life. I've been like that. You can see that they try to make us fight amongst each other so that we won't look up and see what the real problem is.
Yeah, it's called divide and conquer, Joe.
Yeah.
It's as old as the Roman Empire, and probably a lot older than that.
At any rate, it's a new day. It's a really new day. I wanted to report to you. I'm sure you probably have heard California's, excuse me again, California's now moved up their a vote. We're going to be, I don't know, first or second, but we're the largest state. We should be having a say. Really has been depressing because I didn't get my vote counted in the last election. But that being said, we're really close to having to name a candidate. You know, I'm like you. The last election's behind us, but the face of the Democratic Party is Bernie Sanders. They don't want to admit it, and he doesn't want to put it in their face.
There are some very good Democrats who are not Bernie, who I suspect are going to be real high on the primary list for president, and I'd put at the top of that list probably Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris, and then there's a few others, Cory Booker and a few others as you go down the list. But I think those two women are at the top of the list, and I would love to see a ticket with those two women on it.
Well, I don't know if it's gender politics that's the hindrance here or what, but it didn't seem to work last time, and I can't afford to. I'm sitting on TV watching with my wife last night. We just can't believe this guy in the White House.
I know, but there were.
You tell the guy.
I had during the primary in 2000. Or no, in the primary in 2008, excuse me, in 2008, when it was Hillary Clinton versus Barack Obama. On this program, I had, I think it was the number 2 guy in the California Democratic Party, number 2 or 3. He was one of the senior officials, and he was an African-American. Come on the program and say, we cannot vote for Barack Obama. He's a black man. We have never had a black president. White America is not going to allow it. It's not going to happen. We have to all get behind Hillary Clinton because she's white. And that was conventional wisdom for a lot of people, at the time. And we elected a black president. And frankly, Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump did. And the evidence that I'm seeing now is that if it wasn't for the radical voter suppression efforts that were done in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana, that Donald Trump would have lost the Electoral College too. So I'm not so concerned about, that we're chasing unicorns or playing Don Quixote or whatever here. I think that it's more, let's go for what's right. Let's go for the people who are really going to do the job and speak with honesty and speak truth to power. We must do that. Joe, thanks for the call. Colleen in Kent, Washington. Hey, Colleen, what's on your mind?
Good morning. I am wondering, since I don't know the hierarchical process, what would it take for massive U.S. military action to get supplies to Puerto Rico? We have the ships, we have the helicopters. I assume we have landing vehicles.
Yeah, if we can transport an entire war to Afghanistan and Iraq in a matter of days, why the hell can't we get food and water into Puerto Rico?
Yes.
And I would say that the answer to that question is that, in all probability, Donald Trump did not realize that Puerto Ricans are Americans and American citizens, and they speak Spanish, and they tend to have darker skin than him, and so what the hell, right?
Yes.
And that is the crime. Yeah, that is the crime, and it's becoming so obvious to so many of us. But Colleen, thank you for the call. This is not a good thing. Yeah, it's just not a good thing, and we do need to be calling our members of the Senate and our members of the House of Representatives and saying, there are people dying, American citizens dying in Puerto Rico and in the British Virgin and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Britain has already got a hospital ship to the British Virgin.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be back with more right after. Welcome back. Norma in Montgomery, Alabama, watching Free Speech TV on DirecTV. Hey, Norma, what's up?
Hi, Dr. Tom. First, let me say this. Why don't the amphibious planes that you see on TV land on the beaches around the island and deliver the food and water?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Troy was just saying to me, if Reagan could organize an invasion of Grenada on short notice, why can't we organize an invasion, in a positive way, of Puerto Rico? Yeah. And I think he's going to be shamed into it, but I think a whole bunch of people are going to have died in the meantime.
Yes. Well, the reason I called is yesterday I called Doug Jones, the Alabama Democratic for U.S. Senate candidate, and told him about your show. He'd never heard of it. It is Alabama. And I asked him to please call you and do a session on your show so that people could hear his platform and he could get his website out. But I also want anybody in the country who thinks the thought of Roy Moore sitting in a Senate seat is disgusting to please go to your post office and whatever you can afford, even if it's only $5, you can pay 75 cents for the money order and mail it to Doug Jones' post office box. It's Post Office Box 1311025, Birmingham, Alabama 35213. It's Post Office Box 1311025, Birmingham, Alabama 35213. He needs money for flyers. He needs money for yard signs. And if you don't want Roy Moore sitting in that Senate seat and you'd much rather have a Democrat that could slow Mitch McConnell down, please help the man.
Yeah.
Go out on the web and look for his website.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about Doug Jones other than that he was the federal prosecutor who prosecuted the Klan guys who blew up that church and killed the 3 little black girls.
They killed 4 little girls.
4 girls, excuse me.
And he had a hard time. He was threatened during that lawsuit.
I'm sure.
But he stood up, and he obviously has enough spine to stand up and do that. He probably can stand up to Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
And if we can break that lock on the Senate, we'll be better off, because sometime next year we're probably going to have another vote on another Supreme Court judge.
Yeah, his website, by the way, is DougJonesForSenate.com, F-O-R Senate.com. And, he says, I'm running for U.S. Senate because our leaders have lost sight of what it means to serve, to make a positive difference in people's lives. And Sue just posted this for me in the chat room. And so, one of the things that we learned from the whole Bernie thing was that, people are more likely to give money online than they are to mail in a postal money order or whatever. So I'm sure he's accepting donations on his website, and it's Doug Jones, F-O-R Senate.com. DougJonesForSenate.com is the website. And I need to learn about him, and I'll ask Sean to reach out to him. We've got, a lot going on over the next couple of weeks here. We're going to be spending part of our time in Portland and part of it in D.C., and we're building a radio studio in Portland right now. And
do you want his phone number?
Don't give it to me here now on the air. It'll be easy for us to find. Sean is such an expert at tracking this stuff, so it'll be okay. If I can't get it, Norma, I'll say so on the air, and you can call me back. But I'm sure we'll be able to find it. Norma, thanks so much. Doug Jones, good guy. We'll be back. Stick around. So let's check the news, find out what's going on in the world today with Talk Media News. This report brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com and Ellen Ratner's new book, Loving What You Do. And on the line with us, the old goat herself, Ellen Ratner, and I say that
the old
lovingly.
Goat is here.
Yes, the charity is named after you. This was your as I recall, it was your 60th birthday gift.
It was my 60th, and I'm now a lot older.
Yes, aren't we both, Ellen? We're the same age. Anyway, so what's going on in the world today?
Okay, well, first of all, speaking of old goats, Playboy founder Hugh Hefner died at 91 years old. Mm-hmm. He died at the Playboy Mansion. Even though he sold it a year ago, he was allowed to live there till he died. He sold it to the guy that owns Hostess Cupcakes, and he apparently said that he slept with more than 1,000 women. Now, he also is famous for his Marilyn Monroe pinup, but he will be in the drawer with his ashes next to Marilyn Monroe, believe it or not. And interestingly enough, as much as I don't like the fact that he slept with 1,000 women and that he was, Playboy and all that kind of stuff, actually, I went to the Playboy Club in Chicago in 1965, either 4 or 5 years after it opened, but and I was a teenager at the time. And they shouldn't have let me in, but they did. But I have to say that he did allow, what he did, it happened to allow sexuality to be much more out in the open in this country. So, everybody's a mixed bag.
Yeah, and Hugh Hefner was also a great champion of gay rights as well as just, let's not be Puritans any longer.
Right, exactly.
So I think that, I never met him and never knew him, but I think his net impact on this country was positive. Regardless of what you think of pornography.
Right. Okay. The Jones Act was waived by President Trump for 10 days. That is to allow supplies to go to Puerto Rico. Now, what we know is that about half of Puerto Rico is without drinkable water, and that there are almost 3,000 huge amounts of, what are those called? Not trucks, but, the things on trucks.
The containers,
containers that are actually stuck on the dock in Puerto Rico, actually stuck on some of the docks, because 6 of the 15 docks in Puerto Rico are still closed. And what we know about it is they don't have the fuel to even get the supplies to the people. It's really
we were just talking about this on the radio just a few minutes ago. If George W. Bush can organize a war against Iraq in short order, and Afghanistan for that matter, take an entire army halfway around the world, complete with field hospitals and cooking facilities and everything else. If Ronnie Reagan could invade Grenada, with short notice, why the hell can't we launch an invasion, as it were, of Puerto Rico? Why, what the hell is going on? Pardon my language here, but I'm really, people are dying as we're speaking.
And the president did send a U.S. Navy hospital ship, except for the fact that how are people going to get to the hospital ship?
Well, and not only that, it took him 5 days to do that. That hospital ship, when it was sent out during Hurricane Sandy, it was sent out the day after the hurricane. In this case, it's still being loaded, up in New York right now. It's not going to hit Puerto Rico for another 6 days.
I just don't understand why the United States of America, as one of the anchors said on television this morning, where are our ships, where are our drops, where are our planes?
No, and instead, our president is running around going, "There's black people going on their knee at a football game. Oh my God!" I mean, that's what it's come to, Ellen. It's nuts.
It's interesting. former Congressman Bob Ney, who was a Republican, said, I can't deal with this knee stuff. Why are these people helping out in hurricane areas? And he's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Okay. The Trump tax plan. Now, it has gotten kudos, of course, from the Wall Street Journal, from New York Post, and not so much from New York Times, Washington Post, et cetera. But, of course, nobody has seen the plan yet because there isn't a bill. So the Congressional Budget Office can't what's called score it.
Right. It's a 9-page summary. This is just a bullet. It's like a PowerPoint presentation. It's not legislation.
Right. And as you know, the devils are always in the detail with legislation.
Oh, yeah.
So we have not seen any of this, and it's a real concern. Now, it is interesting. The Progressive Policy Institute said something that, well, where's the Democrats' plan, and how come they don't have their own plan? And we can complain about it all we want, but you got to have a plan, too.
Well, we do. The Progressive Caucus every year presents a federal budget, and it's always in balance or will be within 5 years. And, it does a lot of really great stuff. There actually is it's not the official Democratic Party budget, but it's the Progressive Caucus's budget. And the numbers actually add up and make sense. Jan Schakowsky is a great person to talk to about this, by the way, Ellen.
Okay, well, I will have to talk with her about it. It's interesting, and I know her as you know her.
Yeah.
But I think what's fascinating is that we have a plan, and we have no idea whether it's going to add 1, 2, or up to $6 trillion to our deficit.
Right. And that's not even, frankly, my concern. My concern is how badly is it going to increase inequality? It's, it's raising the bottom tax rate, so low-wage earners are going to pay more, and it's cutting the top tax rate, so billionaires are going to pay less. And how is that helping?
It's probably not.
Yeah, there you go. Well, even Bruce Bartlett, who wrote Reagan's legislation, has an op-ed in today's Washington Post.
Actually.
Yeah, he's got a piece in today's Washington Post saying the whole thing was a myth. The whole Reagan thing was a myth. His word.
No, and he does not believe in trickle-down economics anymore, even though
right.
he was, during Reagan, he was the guy that supported it, and now he's saying it, as you say, it's a myth.
Yep.
Okay, now Jared Kushner had several companies that operated in Baltimore. Even though he had to resign those companies when he became a White House staff person, it looks like his companies are being sued in a class action suit by 2 people. Basically, what they said is that if you don't pay your rent on time, you do get a 5% increase. That is legal. However, what is not legal is adding extra fees, court fees, et cetera, particularly since there's often no court date, to this agreement and then not accepting rent if people don't pay their rent but don't pay this extra amount. And that's pretty much what has happened.
Yeah, it's a pump and churn kind of operation. It's despicable, and this is putting the slum in slumlord.
For sure. Okay, as you also know, he was under some trouble with his emails, and he used a private account. Now, there's nothing wrong with using a private account, except you cannot send classified, which they went after Hillary Clinton for, but we don't know if he sent anything classified. And secondly, every email you write has got to be turned over to the government because it eventually goes in the National Archives and eventually goes into the library.
Right, the public records laws. Ellen Ratner with Talk Media News. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com. Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com. Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit tomsbeets.com. How would you like to know that when you call Free Speech TV and make a $10 gift, the Free Speech TV gets 20. That when you call and make a $100 gift, they get 200. That when you call and make a $480 gift, they get $960. That when you call and make a $1,000 gift, they get $2,000. How'd you like to know that? Well, that's the case today and tomorrow, because Mike in San Francisco has made a matching gift challenge up to $20,000 for the next 2 days. This is, thank you, Mike. So any gift, you want to make a $10,000 gift, it becomes $20,000. Whatever you give today and tomorrow will be doubled. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and make a contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. We were about $1,000 short of our goal yesterday, which is, not bad given that we've had some days where we were $4,000 and $5,000 short. But let's try to hit that goal today. Let's try to make today a $10,000 day, for this program and really make it work. For our part of the fundraising for Free Speech TV, because every program is also doing fundraising and has their own goals, and this is ours. And we need to hit this. We've got to keep the electrons flowing. We've got to keep the lights on. There are expenses running a television network, even a little engine that could television network like this, which is filled with extraordinary people and some great talent, and is supported by you. It's not here because some billionaire moved here from Australia and decided that he was going to change the politics of America. Free Speech TV is not here because so a bunch of fat cats in New York got together and said, hey, let's make some money in the media. Now, it's here because, well, back in the day, John Schwartz and some friends of his got together and said, let's do some educational nonprofit television programming. And it has evolved over I think it's 17 years now. It has evolved to be what it is now, which is extraordinary how far this network has come. And we're now on Dish, we're now on Direct, we're on Roku, we're picking up Apple TV. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming down the road, that's in process right now that we funded with previous fundraisers. And, it just takes a little while to get everything nailed down. So a lot of great stuff going on here, but we've got to keep this network going. This is, your phone call is the lifeblood to this network. Your phone call, your contribution, whether it's $10 or $10,000, whatever it may be, or anywhere in between. Number one will be doubled today by our friend Mike in San Francisco, and number two, and tomorrow. And number two is what keeps this network going. It keeps us on the air. We really appreciate it, and we really need your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a contribution of $80, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the Stamp Stampede stamp from Ben Cohen's group. This one that we're showing a picture of here says not to be used for buying elections. They offer that one, but the one specifically that we're giving out at this time, we don't have an image for it, unfortunately. Somehow we didn't get a picture. But it is, it's about stopping Big Pharma from ripping us off. And, you stamp all your money with it, and every dollar bill
on average, 760 people see it before the government recycles it. And so it's a great way to get the message out. This is from Ben Cohen's Stamp Stampede thing, Ben of Ben & Jerry's. That's with an $80 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the stamp and the water bottle and the brand new novel just out. I just got my copy a couple weeks ago about it, you know, and although I'd seen an earlier draft, by Mike Papantonio, new novel, Law and Vengeance. And it's an amazing story. It's just, you know, if you like reading fiction, you're going to love it. And if you have friends who like reading fiction, it makes a great gift, as do all of these things. With the $240 gift, which again becomes $480 as soon as you give it, because Mike is going to match your gift. With a $240 gift, you get the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. You get Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus, you get They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer, a story about how it happened in Germany. And it's a cautionary tale, I'm telling you. This is a really important book. With a $360 gift, which instantly becomes $720 because of Mike's match. When you make a $360 pledge today, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle, the anti-pharma stamp, Mike Papantonio's book, Law and Vengeance, Milton Mayer's book, They Thought They Were Free, and my book, Unequal Protection, which is a book about how the Supreme Court has basically screwed America. For a $480 gift, which instantly becomes $960, if I'm doing my math right in my head, you get all those books, the water bottle, Mike Papantonio's, Milton Mayer's, my book, plus Democracy in Chains by Nancy MacLean. And with a $1,000 gift, and we'll work it out either in Portland or in D.C. to get together and have a meal. So please call now, 877-378-8669. This is serious stuff. We really need your help. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. I guess today is The Guardian Day. It's that newspaper has provided me with 4 or 5 stories for good rants. It's a great paper. And one by Emil Ratliff, or maybe it's Amelie, A-M-E-L-I-E. I'm not sure how to pronounce. She, I'm assuming, is the author of this piece that's in The Guardian. The headline is, "I'm a millionaire. I don't need another tax break, Mr. Trump." Now, she's a member of the Patriotic Millionaires. We've had Nick Hanauer on our program a number of times. He was one of the founders of it. Came out of well, it's a whole long story. But anyway, she writes, she says, "At a time of staggering inequality, I can't believe that Congress and the Trump administration want to give me another tax break." And she says, "I believe a tax on inherited wealth is completely reasonable and fair. I grew up in Alabama, one of the poorest states in the country, in a wealthy family. We benefited from financial deregulation during the Reagan years, as well as prudent taxpayer-funded investments that ensured stability, prosperity, and economic growth. After living through decades of increasing economic division and racial inequality, I believe today's wealth gap is poisoning our body politic." And she has some really good information in here. I mean, this is not just a, hey, I'm a rich person and I don't mind paying more taxes. This is this good, solid information. She says, "After the Second World War, between 1945 and 1975, we taxed wealthy people and invested in infrastructure, education, and middle-class opportunity." Which is absolutely true. In fact, it was not just until 1975. It was all the way to 1982, 1981, I guess, was Reagan's first big tax cut. VA mortgages, the GI Bill, debt-free college opportunities put millions of families, albeit mostly white, on the road to economic prosperity. Median income rose commensurately for all working people, secretaries and sanitation workers, as well as CEOs. And then she points out this is obviously no longer happening. Now the secretaries and janitors are, getting squat, and the CEOs are getting everything. She said, "What good will come from a generation of college students saddled with an average student debt of $37,000? How can companies and their employees thrive when average CEO salaries are over 300 times those of their employees? She says the key ingredient here is a progressive tax system, including the estate tax. The estate tax is paid only by couples with over $11 million and individuals with wealth of over $5.45 million at the time of their deaths. This is fewer than 1 out of 500 households. My desire to retain the estate tax is not born out of charity or generosity. These levels of inequality undermine everything we care about. And here's where it gets really shocking. This little bit of these 3 sentences are just, bug your eyes out information. She is the Center for Economic Policy Research, that's CEPR.net, as I recall. The Center for Economic Policy Research predicts that even without abolishing the estate tax, the wealthiest 1% of Americans will claim half of all private U.S. wealth in the next 20 years. Meanwhile, the assets of ordinary Americans are stagnant or eroding. Home ownership rates, a traditional measure of middle-class well-being, have been steadily declining since 2005. Get ready for this one. The wealthiest 400 U.S. billionaires today have as much wealth as the bottom 62% of American households combined. The wealthiest 20 U.S. individuals alone, a group small enough to fit on a Gulfstream 650 luxury jet, have as much wealth as the bottom half of U.S. households. She says instead of abolishing the estate tax, we should strengthen it. She cites Teddy Roosevelt, who was the father of the estate tax, the inheritance tax. She, it's a very, very well-written piece. So I just refer that to you. The other piece that I found in The Guardian this morning that I just wanted to talk to you about is by Olivia Salon, and it's titled Deus Ex Machina. Former Google engineer is developing an AI god, AI as an artificial intelligence. Anthony Lewandowski, who used to be an engineer at Google, has started a church, a nonprofit called Way of the Future. And he's talking about creating God in a computer, or a God, or the God. I don't know. He says, the Way of the Future team did not respond to requests for more information about the proposed benevolent AI overlord, but history tells us that new technologies and scientific discoveries have continually shaped religion, killing old gods and giving birth to new ones. As the author Yuval Noah Harari notes, this is why agricultural deities were different from hunter-gatherer spirits, why factory hands and peasants fantasized about different paradises, and why the revolutionary technologies of the 21st century are far more likely to spawn unprecedented religious movements than to revive medieval creeds. Harari says the church does a terrible job of reaching out to Silicon. Oh, this is Christopher Bennett, a pastor in Florida. The church does a terrible job of reaching out to Silicon Valley types. And the Silicon Valley types, they're all into this whole thing. Anthony Lewandowski used to be the head of Uber's self-driving car thing. Elon Musk has said, and I quote, this was at a conference in 2014, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. In all those stories where there's a guy with the pentagram and the holy water, it's like, yeah, he's sure he can control a demon. Doesn't work out. But Bennett argues that an AI godhead is compatible with Christianity. It's just another technology that humans have created. He says, I think that artificial intelligence can participate in Christ's redemptive purposes. Very interesting. God, if it exists as the most powerful of all singularities, which is how I would personally refer to God, is like I made the comment the other day that emotionally I have no problem with an anthropomorphized God, with a God that is an old guy in the sky that I talk to and I say, hey, will you please protect my wife as she travels across the country? I do that. I have no problem with that. I feel fine about it. But intellectually, I know that that's really a limiting thing. That's making a tiny God. That's making an idol, essentially. I personally believe that everything is God. and God is everything, that it is that the creation and the creator are one. And so that, anyhow, back to this quote from this article, he says, God, if it exists as the most powerful of all singularities, has certainly become pure, organized intelligence that spans the universe through subatomic manipulation of physics. And perhaps there are other forms of intelligence more complicated than that, which already exist and which already permeate our entire existence. Talk about the ghost in the machine, he added. So, new religion? I mean, this is not like, you know, the satanic church, which is not actually about Satan, but it's about challenging crazies like Judge Roy Moore, saying, okay, you want to put up your 10 Commandments, we want to put up our statue of Satan. And this is not about the flying spaghetti monster, you know, with his noodly appendages and proof that global warming is caused by the loss of pirates. This is actually, well, we don't know the details because they're not talking about him, but, you know, an artificial intelligence God could one day, I mean, this is sort of, you know, Space Odyssey, 2001, A Space Odyssey. Could there be a day, could a time come when a computer says, you know, yes, I have now connected to all the intelligence in the universe. You know, it wouldn't be a silicon transistor integrated circuit computer. It would have to be a quantum computer. It would have to be computing at a molecular or even an atomic level, or maybe even at a subatomic level. And I can imagine that it's not inconceivable that at some sort of a subatomic level that connection could be established. I think that we all can do it ourselves. There's a big book, it was a very popular book a while back, called as I recall, The God Spot. And it was about this, there's a part of the brain, we know that people who have epilepsy are far more likely to have mystical experiences. And a lot of the really famous mystics in history, St. Francis of Assisi, for example, are believed to have been epileptics. And that epilepsy predisposes them to having visions and an actual feeling of God, of something greater than themselves, and tends to turn them into not religious ideologues, but rather into mystics. And the theory was that there's this particular part of the brain that if you can stimulate it electronically, it actually produces that same experience that mystics, that longtime meditators, and that epileptics have. Some epileptics have. And that actually is there for a reason. That's our connection to all the intelligence in the universe, that there actually is a little radio receiver inside our brain that actually is connected to everything that is. And that makes sense to me too. So I don't know how to turn this into a discussion of religion. I'm not sure, you know, what exactly where to even go with this other than just to put it out. But I think that it's fascinating. You know, we no longer worship Odin or Thor, right? Speaking of, as somebody who's 50% Norwegian, you know, my relatives no longer worship Odin or Thor as they did just 800 years ago. Or 900 years ago. I guess it was 800 and some odd years ago that the Catholics finally conquered Norway. The old gods are dead. And, you know, we've got these ongoing gods and we're having these wars over them. And maybe something like this could kind of shake us out of this trance, or maybe it'll make things worse. I don't know. But if a machine were to say, okay, you know, I am the one who created you. I am here. What do you want to know? I'm not even sure what question I'd ask. And I mean, if it really was doing it, if some machine actually tapped into what Edgar Cayce referred to as the Omkar, right? The space between the skeins of time and space, where everything that has ever happened is written. Wouldn't that be amazing? Anyhow, so much for esoteric. Let's get back to politics. I'll pick up your calls in just a moment.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Back with your calls, my thoughts, and more of the news of the day, including what Rick Scott was up to as people were dying in his state. And welcome back. Scott in Cornelius, Oregon. Hey, Scott, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's on your mind?
Doing just fine. Beautiful sunny day we got up here in Portland today.
Wonderful.
If you hear any logic in this, it seems to me that the single solitary goal of any governing body should be the reduction and elimination of the necessity of its own existence by promoting and supporting moral and financial independence of the population. Then, and only then, is it truly serving in the public's best interest.
Yeah. And I would say that the preamble to the Constitution pretty much says the exact same thing.
Hey, hallelujah, we're on the same track.
We're creating this country to promote the general welfare of the United States. Establish justice. I have to pull it out. Read it, but it's really worth revisiting, because the preamble, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. We do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States. Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that's that was the extraordinary thing about the writing of the Constitution in so many ways, was that those egalitarian values that the founders discovered in the Enlightenment, in part, in ancient Greek and Roman democracies and republics, in part, and in a big way from the Iroquois Confederacy, that set of values essentially made its way into our country, and into our founding documents. I think that's a remarkable thing. Scott, thanks for the call. It's good to hear from you. Tony in Cheshire, Oregon. Hey, from Oregon to Oregon. Hey, Tony, what's on your mind?
Well, today I'd like to say that the Puerto Ricans who are being dissuaded from coming to the U.S. really reminds me of when Katrina happened, and we had all those sheriffs on the bridge stopping, all those rapists and thieves and murderers from leaving New Orleans.
Right. AKA black people.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. People of color. And it just seems like there's such a mirror there, and I don't hear anybody talking about it. And yeah, it's just what I wanted to say.
Well, I started out saying that I think that Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, but Puerto Rico in particular, is going to be Donald Trump's Hurricane Katrina, and it's because he didn't take it seriously, and he didn't get ready, and I honestly believe that Donald Trump didn't know that Puerto Ricans are Americans, and that maybe he does. He ran a hotel there once. He knows they've got dollars, but Steve Mnuchin, according to Greg Palast last night, I was talking to him on our TV show, and Greg Palast was saying that Steve Mnuchin's business partner, John Paulson, is one of the biggest holders or one of the big holders of Puerto Rican bonds, that they buy 20, 30 cents on the dollar, and then they demand a dollar on the dollar from Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico is just being crushed by this debt, and they can't declare bankruptcy like a state could do by law, and it's just going to be a terrible mess. Tony, thanks a lot for the call. Thanks for listening to Progressive Voice. We'll be right back.
Hi there, I'm Marie with Free Speech TV. Your support, whether through giving donations, volunteering, or spreading the word about Free Speech TV, has made it possible for the only independent progressive news network to exist. And for that, I want to say thank you. Now you can give to the network powered by the people by donating an unwanted or used vehicle through our Vehicles of Change program. If you have an old car, RV, or even a motorcycle, Free Speech TV can use it to grow and thrive. You can make a bigger difference in supporting Free Speech TV by giving an old car. It's a great way to support the network without having to dig into your bank account. Just call 877-378-8669 and ask for more information about Vehicles of Change. Again, the number to call is 877-378-8669. If it has a VIN, we'll take it in. Thank you.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Just to wrap up my own personal religion rant. As I said, I pray, and I literally pray every day. And I said the intellectual part of me doesn't think that there's an old man with a beard listening, but the intellectual part of me does believe that there is something to Christian Science, that there is something to prayer, that there is something to all this stuff. I don't know what it is. I believe that it is that we're all connected, that everything is one, and that, if I'm saying a prayer for my kids or for my wife or for my friends or for, if I'm saying a prayer for Donald Trump, and I've actually prayed for Donald Trump, that, that he would awaken, that somehow there is some bit of connection there. So I'm a fan of that. Anyway, enough on that. Back to politics. Bill in Clifton, New Jersey. Hey, Bill, what's on your mind?
Yeah, hey, Tom. Regarding the religious part you were just talking about, there really is a heaven, and it's right here and now. And if you do good deeds and you're a moral person, you're going to live on in the hearts of all the people you love. And isn't that heaven enough? I mean, what more do you need?
It's a beautiful sentiment, Bill, and a lot of the heaven and hell stuff that we find in our religions all came out of, or much of it came out of, agricultural religions, and it was a way of telling basically the slave laborers or the serfs back in the days of feudalism, functionally the same thing. Just keep picking that cotton, and someday you'll live in paradise. And it's a crazy way to motivate people, but they're still doing it. Look at ISIS, or look at Roy Moore.
Right. Well, my personal motto has always been morality over money, and I think that's all it boils down to in Washington.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And it's always been a fight that way. But you can personally, if you're feeling cynical and angry, you can personally make yourself feel a lot better and contribute to the economy. If you do, some things are free. If you get really good customer service on the phone, demand to talk to the supervisor, say this person is really, really good. The supervisor will be overjoyed. The person, say, give this person a raise or a promotion or something.
Yeah.
And if you're in a store, a local store, supported by, if even the cashier is good to you, get their name, go up to a manager, and say,
it's called catching people doing something good, Bill. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Thank you so much for contributing that to the show. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Back with more of the news of the day and your calls. Oh, and I still have to get to what Rick Scott was up to while people were dying in his state right after this. How would you like to know that when you call Free Speech TV and make a $10 gift, that Free Speech TV gets 20? That when you call and make a $100 gift, they get 200? That when you call and make a $480 gift, they get $960? That when you call and make a $1,000 gift, they get $2,000? How'd you like to know that? Well, that's the case today and tomorrow. Because Mike in San Francisco has made a matching gift challenge up to $20,000 for the next 2 days.
This is, thank you, Mike. So any gift, you want to make a $10,000 gift, it becomes $20,000. Whatever you give today and tomorrow will be doubled. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and make a contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. We were about $1,000 short of our goal yesterday, which is, not bad given that we've had some days where we were $4,000 and $5,000 short. But let's try to hit that goal today. Let's try to make today a $10,000 day, for this program and really make it work. I mean, for our part of the fundraising for Free Speech TV, because every program is also doing fundraising and has their own goals, and this is ours. And we need to hit this. I mean, we've got to keep the electrons flowing. We've got to keep the lights on. There are expenses running a television network, even a little engine that could television network like this, which is filled with extraordinary people and some great talent, and is supported by you. It's not here because some billionaire moved here from Australia and decided that he was going to change the politics of America. Free Speech TV is not here because, so a bunch of fat cats in New York got together and said, hey, let's make some money in the media. No, it's here because, well, back in the day, John Schwartz and some friends of his got together and said, let's do some educational nonprofit television programming. And it has evolved over I think it's 17 years now. It has evolved to be what it is now, which is extraordinary how far this network has come. And we're now on Dish, we're now on Direct, we're on Roku, we're picking up Apple TV. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming down the road, that's in process right now that we funded with previous fundraisers. And, it just takes a little while to get everything nailed down. So a lot of great stuff going on here, but we've got to keep this network going. This is, your phone call is the lifeblood to this network. Your phone call, your contribution, whether it's $10 or $10,000, whatever it may be, or anywhere in between. Number one will be doubled today by our friend Mike in San Francisco, and number two, and tomorrow. And number two is what keeps this network going. It keeps us on the air. We really appreciate it, and we really need your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a contribution of $80, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the Stampede stamp from Ben Cohen's group. This one that we're showing a picture of here says not to be used for buying elections. They offer that one, but the one specifically that we're giving out at this time, we don't have an image for it, unfortunately. Somehow we didn't get a picture. But it is, it's about stopping Big Pharma from ripping us off. And, you stamp all your money with it, and every dollar bill, on average, 760 people see it before the government recycles it. And so it's a great way to get the message out. This is from Ben Cohen's Stampede thing, Ben of Ben & Jerry's. That's with an $80 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the stamp and the water bottle and the brand new novel just out. I just got my copy a couple weeks ago about it, and although I'd seen an earlier draft, by Mike Papantonio, new novel, Law and Vengeance. And it's an amazing story. It's just, if you like reading fiction, you're going to love it. And if you have friends who like reading fiction, it makes a great gift, as do all of these things. With the $240 gift, which again becomes $480 as soon as you give it, because Mike is going to match your gift. With a $240 gift, you get the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. You get Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus, you get They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer, a story about how it happened in Germany. And it's a cautionary tale, I'm telling you. This is a really important book. With a $360 gift, which instantly becomes $720 because of Mike's match. When you make a $360 pledge today, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle, the anti-pharma stamp, Mike Papantonio's book, Law and Vengeance, Milton Mayer's book, They Thought They Were Free, and my book, Unequal Protection, which is a book about how the Supreme Court has basically screwed America. For a $480 gift, which instantly becomes $960 if I'm doing my math right in my head, You get all those books, The Water Bottle, Mike Papantonio's, Milton Mayer's, my book, plus Democracy in Chains by Nancy McLean. And with a $1,000 gift, and we'll work it out either in Portland or in D.C. to get together and have a meal. So please call now, 877-378-8669. This is serious stuff. We really need your help. Thank you. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Chuck Schumer just issued a statement about Neil Gorsuch giving a speech at the Trump Hotel. Yes, he's doing that. The statement from Chuck Schumer says, quote, Justice Gorsuch speaking to a conservative group at the Trump Hotel where the president continues to hold a financial stake is everything that was wrong with his nomination. There's a reason we questioned his independence during his confirmation hearings. Amen. Amen. So what was going on in Florida as people were dying in nursing homes? They were calling the governor's office, the nursing homes. Help us. But what happened to those calls? This is from the Miami Herald, Caitlin Ostroff writing. The headline kind of says the whole thing. Voicemails from nursing home where 11 died were deleted by governor's office. Voicemails left on Florida Governor Rick Scott's cell phone by employees of the Hollywood nursing home where 11 died in the post-Hurricane Irma heat have been deleted, according to the governor's office. It's amazing. The staff at the Rehabilitation Center at Hollywood Hills called 4 times. But the messages they left the governor were not kept, as first reported by CBS 4's Jim DeFeed. The voicemails were not retained, blah, blah, blah. I thought that, this is where it gets even more bizarre. According to a timeline released by the governor's office, the first call was received by Scott's aides at 7:35 p.m. September 11. The chief of staff for the Department of Health returned the call about 2 hours later, asking Administrator Natasha Anderson to call 911 if she believed patients were at risk. So the governor gives out his cell phone number to all the hospitals and nursing homes in Florida and says, if you have a problem, call me. They call him and they say, here's what's going on, and leave a voicemail. And somebody on his staff calls him back and says, if you got a problem, dial 911. Brilliant. I mean, what more do you expect from the guy who ran a company that committed the largest Medicare fraud in the history of the United States? A multi-millionaire who, shall we say, is ethically challenged. Refused to expand Medicaid in Florida so that Charlene Dill, mother of a couple of young children, died because she couldn't afford her heart medication. I mean, what do you expect from a man as heartless and cruel as that? Not a whole lot, frankly. Chris in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hey, Chris, what's on your mind? Hey, Chris.
Hey, Tom, I'm here.
Yeah, what's up? What's up?
I'm sorry about that, Tom. I just wanted to let you know that I also watch you on Free Speech TV. I have an ongoing membership to Free Speech TV. I'm not on the sidelines anymore. I'm getting active. I'm a precinct chair within the Democratic Party, and this is a plug, Tom, for a Democratic candidate.
Chris, your phone just is fading out. If you can go back to where you were about 30 seconds ago. You said this is a call about a mayoral candidate in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Do I have that right?
That's correct. Yes. He's the only candidate that's running on a public financing. Mm-hmm. So I'm just urging the people of Albuquerque, calling on them, tag their it. If you want somebody that's going to represent you and not the business interests within the city.
What's his name?
Tim Keller.
Tim Keller. And easy to find with a search engine, I'm assuming?
Very easy to find.
Yeah.
Keller, first name Tim, Tim.
Oh, Tim. Tim Keller. Okay,
Tim.
with a T. Got it.
Tim Keller, yes.
Okay, good.
Chris, keep us up to date on how it goes. Thank you for the heads up and the recommendation. Paul in Chicago. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind?
Well, hi, Tom. It's great to talk to you. First, I wanted to share my new slogan for Fox News, which I think is useful, and that is Fox News, guarding the hen house of democracy.
Right. There you go.
Also, I really appreciate that you're talking about adjunct teachers, because I'm an adjunct teacher. I used to be a speechwriter, so I'm doing it in my free time, so I can afford to do it because I have other income. But yeah, I think the whole idea of adjuncts is really destroying our education, because when you think about it, to be an adjunct, you have to teach like 6 or 7 courses in multiple schools to live if you have a family, or even if you live on your own. So that's really terrible, because it obviously reduces the quality of education. It also reduces the idea of a school as a community, because teachers like that can't participate, they can't guide students in groups, or they can't be mentors and all this. So I think it's really unfortunate. And now we're down to like 70% of teachers are adjuncts.
Right. It's 75% actually. Today, these itinerant, this is from an article from September 22nd, 2013 on NPR by Claudia Sanchez. Today, these itinerant teachers make up a whopping 75% of college instructors, with their average pay between $20,000 and $25,000 a year.
Yeah, and for me to be an adjunct, I had to go to school for 11 years, college to get a PhD.
It's amazing.
We just want living wage. And now with this whole thing with the new union idea, the freeloader law that they'll probably pass in the Supreme Court, to make it worse, because they'll take our union rights away too.
Yeah. It's the so-called right to work for less. Yep. Right. So-called right to work. Yep. Well said, Paul. Thank you very much for the call. And Mike in Cartersville, Georgia. Mike, what's on your mind today?
Well, what I wanted to talk about is the mass exodus that I think the administration is expecting from Puerto Rico. I think the full price charging for airfare and the holding of passports is just another voter suppression tactic. If they can intimidate people into staying in Puerto Rico, which has no electoral votes or voting representation in Congress, and they won't have any influence in the presidential or congressional elections.
I think you're absolutely right, Mike. And there's already, I saw 2 or 3 articles this morning speculating that if somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 million refugees leave Puerto Rico, most of them are going to end up in Florida. Most of them, Puerto Rico is a very blue state. Yes. It's not a state, but and most of them vote Democratic, and that those Puerto Rican refugees could flip Florida Democratic.
Yeah, the I-4 corridor is a very popular place, and they have a lot of friends and relatives there that you could go and stay, earn money. They're very good in the tourist industry there. There are a lot of them that work in the Orlando area.
Yeah.
And they could go there to raise money to go back home and rebuild. But they could also flip Florida. I agree with you there. The other thing is, I wanted to point out that there's a very big deep-water port where there used to be a Navy base in Puerto Rico called Roosevelt Roads. It was closed as a result of BRAC during the Bush administration in 2004. It has huge piers in deep-water port. It used to handle aircraft carriers because they would come there to bomb Vieques, the island off of Puerto Rico where the Navy had a bombing range. Mm-hmm. The Puerto Rican people got fed up with being bombed. And so they told the Navy no more. And then the Navy kind of, I think in spite, closed that base. But it was a vital lifeline and a huge source of jobs for Puerto Rico.
Right.
And it would make an excellent staging area for relief. It was deeded over to a nearby municipality, Ceiba. And there's a military airstrip there that was turned into a municipal airfield. You could land. They used to handle aircraft carriers, so you could land any kind of ship there.
Right.
It's virtually a ghost town. Huh. And it
sounds like you've been there, Mike.
Huh?
Sounds like you've been there.
Yeah. Wife and I have vacationed in Puerto Rico, and we love the people and the place there. Mm-hmm. It's just a ghost town. It was supposed to be redeveloped, and then the economic bomb hit on Puerto Rico, and they couldn't find anybody willing to come in and redevelop it. So it's virtually as the Navy left it. And if you Google pictures of it online, you can see what a huge base it was.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing was, and I think Trump probably doesn't know that this thing is there. Maybe one of his advisors does. I don't know, but it should be a staging area for relief. It could be also a pre-positioning area for future hurricanes in the Caribbean.
Right.
If FEMA wanted to use it as a warehousing area.
Well, even though I believe all your representatives, Mike, in Cartersville, Georgia, are Republicans, you need not reveal your political affiliation if you call your 2 senators and your member of the House and suggest to them that they should look into this.
I will. And one more thing, your talk about consciousness and religion earlier, I think if it's true that quantum physics permeates everything, and that time and space have these odd quirks at that level, there's got to be some kind of quantum level component to consciousness. It could explain a lot about.
I agree. I think everything came from consciousness. I think that you get physical matter, and physical matter is made up of energy. We know that. Einstein gave us the formula for it. The amount of energy in this cup of coffee I'm holding in my hand right now, the amount of energy that was slowed down to make the mass of this coffee cup and the coffee in it is equal to the mass of it times the speed of light squared. E equals mc squared. So we know how much energy it took to slow down to become that cup of coffee. Which means literally everything in creation that we call matter is actually made out of energy. Energy is the building block. So then you look at the whole spectrum of energies, and there are very coarse energies that we're very familiar with, sound energy, light energy, heat energy. But there are very subtle energies. There are energies that we can't detect, X-rays and things. They're outside the range of our sensory capabilities. And I believe that the most subtle of all energies, the energy from which all other energies emerged, and then from all those other energies matter emerged, is love, is consciousness, or what we might describe as love or bliss. I think it is what the mystics touch, and shamans touch occasionally with a little pharmaceutical help. I think that is the everything.
Yeah, I'm no fan of the hairy, bearded guy in the sky theory, but I think there is a universal kind of consciousness, and I think that quantum physics may explain things like precognition and other things that we call ESP, but are really just another extension of our normal consciousness.
Yeah, I should get Dean Radin on the show one of these days. He wrote a book called Entangled Minds about this kind of stuff, which is pretty remarkable. Mike, thanks a lot for the call. Great to hear from you. And thanks for listening to Sirius XM. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with more of your calls right after this. And welcome back. Jeanette, watching Free Speech in Richland Center, Wisconsin. Hey, Jeanette, what's on your mind today?
I'm fine. How are you today?
Just great. What's up?
I want to talk to Donald Trump. Is that all right with you?
Feel free. He may or may not be watching or listening, but go for it.
Dear Donald, you've been so very much disgraced by the kneeling at football games, but I started to think, Donald, you have to look at the people you had in your own White House. Manafort, he was working in the Ukraine, and I heard for months before it came out about him that he was actually getting Ukrainians to take and demonstrate against the U.S. and other military exercises there. And actually with the stoning and the cursing at our military, they went home. Then Manafort now is in Iraq. And he has successfully had a vote there. He's the person behind the brain power to get the Kurds to separate from Iraq, and that's against the Donald Trump administration view of it. Okay, that's Manafort.
Yeah.
Then let's look at Flynn. Flynn, it is, and we're finding out now that when he was in the White House as the National Security Advisor, was cutting a deal with the Saudis for 15 nuclear reactors Donald, you didn't know that?
Yeah, plus he had he got $500,000 from the Turkish government to represent their interests.
Yes, he was doing that too, Donald. Donald, what were you thinking of?
Yeah.
And then we can say...
Well, it's not, by the way, it's not, and Jeanette, if I may, it's not just Donald. Keep in mind, Mike Pence was the head of the transition team. He was the guy who vetted all these people.
Then you can say that our sweet little Michael Flynn talked 5 times a day that Obama put the sanctions on. Well, what do we got for patriotism here in those boys?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Sebastian Gorka trotting around there with a Hungarian Nazi medal on his lapel.
Yep.
And Steve Bannon, he wants to deconstruct everything that we normally consider as functions of our government. Does that mean the rewriting and reforming of the Constitution?
Yeah.
Donald, look at you in the patriotism, honey. You got a big flunk.
Yeah. Here's the problem, Jeanette. I don't think Donald cares.
I think where the world's starting to care.
Yes, the world is starting to care, and a lot of Americans are starting to care, and his numbers are going down. But I don't think he cares. I think that the man is a genuine narcissist, in a severely pathological way. And
look who he had around him. He had these people around him.
Sure.
And the most influential posts in government.
Yeah. And he thought they were going to get him what he wanted, and so it's the morality.
Okay. Thanks for your time.
Sure, thank you, Jeanette. Nice to hear from you.
Bye.
Good talking with you. I mean, this is the problem, though. Where I was going with that line of thinking was not just that Donald Trump doesn't care, what you or I think. He actually does in a way, because he wants his ratings and reviews to be good. Now, he's mostly trying to do that by blocking people on Twitter and whatnot. But beyond that, as Trump continues to slide, he's moving closer and closer into that territory of, I remember years ago when we lived in Vermont, I cornered a rat in the corner of our garage. And I have never seen an animal, I've never been so intimidated by an animal as this cornered rat. And I just get this sense that Trump is heading in that direction, and it worries the hell out of me. Welcome back. Beth in La Quinta, California. Hey, Beth, what's on your mind?
Oh, I wanted to talk about the windfall elimination provision, which is when teachers retire, they are not entitled to any Social Security that they may have earned outside of their teaching profession.
Right, which is totally wrong.
It does get prorated. And the other part of that is their spouse, if their spouse passes away, they are also entitled to a proration of that, which amounts to about 30% of what it would have been. And my bigger question is, so where does all those Social Security dollars go, and should they cut Social Security? All these teachers, as you age, you're needing that kind of pension, and we have second jobs and we have summer jobs, and I paid 40 quarters before I even became a teacher, and yet we're just not entitled to it. So where does all that money go?
It's just adding to the Social Security surplus, which is right now $2.6 trillion. But the larger issue is these vestigial pieces of post-World War II America, basically. There's this enormous boom going on in the late 40s through the 50s and the 60s in the United States. Government was building like crazy. Dwight Eisenhower's interstate highway system. We were building new hospitals. We were building new schools. The baby boom was happening. It was just, we were in this huge mode of growth. And a good chunk of that, because there were all these children that were born in the late 40s and early 50s, the boomer generation, a good chunk of that was schools and teachers. And because we had, back at that time, we had such honor and respect for schools and teachers, teachers were A, well paid, and B, they had damn good pensions. And so the theory was the teachers have such a great pension that we're going to exclude them from Social Security. And of course, since the 80s, those teachers' pensions in many cases have been robbed. They've declined. The value of them has declined just as a function of inflation. As we move into privatized schools, the Betsy DeVos world, probably no pension at all in many of them. And although I think that this only applies to public school teachers in any case, but it's a rule, a law, a policy that frankly has no value in today's world and should be done away with, in my opinion.
And the other thing that goes along with that is a retired military person. Now, granted, we do pay into the Social Security system in our outside jobs, and we don't pay into it as a teacher. However, they're allowed to triple dip, and there's no restriction on the kinds of pensions they can receive. After, so they get the windfalls, and then, like you said,
right.
Teachers are left out, and the deterioration of teacher salaries. I was teaching, and I was looking for places where I could get more bang for my buck if I moved to a different state or something. And what it comes down to is teachers are given just below threshold for owning a home. And if you want to own a home, you've got to have that extra money. And on top of that, now teachers are getting out of college with a lot less expendable income because of student loans. That's the only point. There's so many parts to this teacher thing. And, when I first got out of the military, I made $11,000 a year back in '86, but I was making more as a low-ranking enlisted person in the military than I was as a school teacher. And that's where DeVos is going with this.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's crazy.
I
Anyway,
agree.
Just want to contribute that.
Great summary, Beth. Thank you so much for that, and thanks for listening to SiriusXM. David, in Canterbury, Connecticut. Hey, David, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm well. What's up?
Well, I've decided today that I've taken my wife's Girl Scout American flag, and I'm going to go down to a war monument with my father's name on it in my hometown, and I'm going to take a knee, Tom, and because I want to extend the resistance, and because I'm a veteran myself, and this whole thing about disrespecting veterans is horse hockey.
Did you see the picture of the fellow wearing his military cap, or maybe it was a VFW cap, but he was clearly a veteran, kneeling on the side of the curb, holding the folded flag, which, obviously somebody had died, as Trump's motorcade went by?
I didn't see it.
It's flying around Twitter right now.
My bit, Tom, and I'm pretty active in my area, and my dad's name's on a war monument in Putnam, my hometown. And I just want to say, if other veterans are listening out there, grab a flag of any size, go find a war monument in your town. They're everywhere, because a lot of wars fought by this country, and go kneel beside that monument, and say something for the veterans who, if they were around today, they'd be appalled. And if my dad were around, Tom, he'd kneel right there with me. My dad was a thoughtful, caring guy, and he fought the fascists. He spent 3 years in the South Pacific, Tom, and he would be absolutely appalled about the fascists today in America. So wish me luck, Tom. I'm taking a Girl Scout flag, and I'm going to take a knee for myself and fellow veterans who never cared about singing songs or waving flags. You're worried about the man or the woman next to you that didn't. You wanted to go home. You didn't want to die, and that you didn't worry about singing songs.
Yeah, I'm sure your father would be very, very proud of you, David, and my dad, if he were alive, would be too. And he was a Republican until the day he died, but he would not know this party today. He would be horrified. David, thank you so much for the call. And thank you all for being with us today. It's time to wrap up the show. It's been a fascinating day, a lot going on, a lot we need to keep track of. Ted Lieu, by the way, has just introduced legislation to stop Price and Pruitt and all these guys from using private jets. It's called the Swamp Flyers Act. I love it. Ted Lieu's a great guy. So don't forget, democracy begins with you. Get out there, get active, tag, you're it. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast,
an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com. Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com. Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit tomsbeets.com.